just looking for consistency, looking for guys that are great teammates, that are obviously solid in pass protection, excellent in the run game, and guys that just help make the team better. You know, the best athlete isn't the one that's going to win the job. It's the guy that plays the best with the other 5 around him. And then, you know, offensive line-wise, unless you're playing tackle, you better be able to play multiple spots. So having versatile guys is very important.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
And we come into the sounds of Clint Kubiak fresh off his presser earlier today, opening up the 2026 training camp for the Silver and Black. It was great to be there. Had a whole media room full of media members from every TV station, every outlet. Folks I've never seen, folks I see all the time have all been there, and that's how it is. It's an exciting day because you know that football activities are officially back. The Raiders will be back out there on the grass coming up tomorrow early in the morning, 7:30 a.m., which I'm excited about that. And, you know, the Raiders have to do it early in the morning because of the extreme weather here in the Las Vegas area, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? They get their work in, and they're ready to rock and roll. But you come into the sounds of Clint Kubiak talking about the offensive line, which is something that we talked about quite a bit. The battle, in particular, at the guard position, consistency, being good teammates, which goes back to what Paul Gutierrez, has said on this show many times when he talks about the offensive line and it coming together. It's not necessarily the best athletes. It's not necessarily the best offensive linemen. It's the best 5 that will fit together. And Clint Kubiak reiterated that earlier today. The best 5 athletes aren't necessarily going to get the job. It's the guys that can be consistent, the guys that can be good teammates, the guys that can work well together. That's all you're looking for and really in every position in the National Football League and in sports in general. You're looking for consistency, right? I say it all the time. I've been using this saying for a long time. Tell me who you are. Are you going to be a 7, a 10, a 3, a 2, a 8, a 9? Are you going to be that, or are you going to be a consistent 7 or a consistent 8? Because I'll take that consistent 7. At least I know what I'm getting, right? And when it comes to the offensive line, you have to know exactly what you're getting from the left tackle to the left guard to the center position to the right guard to the right tackle. They are so important to be on the same page and in lockstep with each other. So who are you going to be consistently is going to be the biggest key moving forward for that offensive line. And obviously teams are built in the trenches, so the defensive line, they're going to have that element as well. But in particular, especially with Clint Kubiak being an offensive-minded coach, and we all know what the end-all, be-all goal is and what's going to be happening with the Raiders' offense and the weapons that they have and the quarterback position, they've got to get that offensive line put together. They've got to get that 5 down that they feel like are going to be the best that fit along that offensive line, and they've got to work to all get on the same page. But excited because Raider Nation, you can give that big sigh of relief. We officially made it. Football is back. And I cannot be any happier that football is back. Trust and believe that. We got our media guy today who was sitting on the desk at our little spots when we walked into the media room. Nice, big, real good-looking media guide from the Raiders, the 2026 Raiders media guide. I tweeted out a picture of it, and it just really goes through everything from the roster to the history of the team to, you know, stats and information. There's just so much there, but that's just another sign that football is back. Had an opportunity to go out there onto the practice field just for a quick minute to test our equipment. So the morning tailgate, Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, Clay Baker, they will be coming to you live from practice starting tomorrow morning, bright and early. Vince Sapienza will be representing tomorrow morning. So went out there, saw the sprinklers on the grass, saw the stands. So when the fans are there, where they're going to be sitting at, and just looking at the whole lay of the land. And it's just one of those signs that, yep, it is officially back. Saw the tents where the post game or the post practice, podium sessions are going to be when it's head coach Clint Kubiak speaking with us, or particular players or other coordinators like Andrew Janoko or Robbie Leonard or whoever the case may be. Just got the early glimpse of what it's going to look like. And, again, it just kind of gives you that feeling of, yep, no doubt about it, we made it. We made it through the, and I say in air quotes, dog days of summer, because to be honest with you, Raider Nation, it never felt like the dog days of summer were here. Those days where people complain there's nothing to talk about. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I feel like we went fast and furious all summer long. I feel like from the minute that the season ended, between obviously the coaching change, between free agency, the NFL draft, the way that the Raiders navigated through the waters and they put everything together, the excitement about the team, I feel like there was, everything just kept on flowing. Rookie minicamp, OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and then there was a quick, small, short window where you could say, yeah, there's not really much to talk about when it comes to the Raiders. But then there was other things to talk about and fill that void. So I feel like we got to where we are really quickly without any hiccups. And, man, I'll tell you, so excited about the opportunity that we're going to be with you the rest of the year and everything that's moving forward as this team is starting to put the pieces together. And, of course, they'll be out there on the practice field coming up starting on tomorrow. Coming up on the show this afternoon, Shantelle Chand, Raiders Squad Show, did her show with her and Amber Thea Harris this morning. She'll join us at 2:30 and just kind of give you her pre-training camp, pre-practice number one thoughts on what she's looking for, what she's the most excited to hear about, competitions in camp, and obviously that's a conversation that we'll have a lot of coming up on today's show just because now that camp is here, now you can talk about some true camp battles. So Shantelle Chand will join us coming up at 2:30. Kirk Morrison was supposed to join the show yesterday, but because of a massive cell issue that was going on, he was not the only one affected. There was plenty of people that were affected. I saw him at the facility earlier today. He'll join us coming up at 3 o'clock. He's good to go. I know he was talking to the players after Clint Kubiak, after he talked to us. He said, hey, I'm about to go meet with the team, so we'll get some good nuggets from Kirk. And he stopped when Clint Kubiak said he expects Aiden O'Connell and he expects Fernando Mendoza to push the hell out of, Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is a starting quarterback, and he stopped. He said, all right, Q, go ahead and drop the mic. Go ahead and tweet that out. And it was like the worst-kept secret. We all knew. We talked about it for so long that Kirk Cousins was going to be the starting quarterback, and as of tomorrow, according to head coach Clint Kubiak, he will be the starting quarterback. But, again, he expects Fernando. He expects Aiden, even Jacob Clark you mentioned, to push them. Right, and his response to competition at any spot was the best guys will play at every position. The best player will play, and that's all that you could ever ask for. Just, if you're a player and you're in that position, give me an opportunity. Right, if I'm the best guy, let me play. If I'm not the best guy, let the best guy play. Right? Kirk Cousins said the same thing when he had the introductory press conference. So I know Kirk Cousins, Fernando Mendoza, should he start, should he not start? I know that's going to be a storyline. It's never going to go away. Watching, ESPN, I've been checking out the storyline ever since Clint Kubiak spoke, but he has let it be known, for any that didn't know, that Kirk Cousins will be the starting quarterback tomorrow. And they're going to move forward from there. He's going to get a ton of reps, his words, not mine, and then they're going to start, like I said, putting the pieces together. So Kirk Morrison will join us coming up at 3 o'clock. It's always great to catch up with the General, John McClain. He'll join us at 3:30. We'll talk all things NFL storylines. Saw that Jalen Carter got paid. See that other guys. It's so funny. This time of year is, training camp is getting ready to get started. Guys are upset because their contract situations aren't where they want to be. And then there are guys that are getting paid. Like Jalen Carter got a massive contract extension from the Eagles, reset the market at the defensive tackle position. I know that ran some Raider fans a little salty because, well, we all know that the Raiders had an opportunity to draft him when he was selected, and they went with Tyree Wilson for multiple reasons. That didn't work out. Jalen Carter in Philadelphia did work out. But again, Howie Roseman, he's earned the right to get that, to be able to go out on a limb and get a guy like that, and it's worked out really well for the Eagles, as it seems like it always does. So he got picked up with a big-time contract extension. Obviously, there's others out there that are looking for that contract extension. Baker Mayfield, he's not going to get extended this season. Looks like that he's going to play this season out with Tampa Bay, and then they're going to get back to the drawing board. And obviously, Vita Vea was a conversation on yesterday that will continue to roll on. Speaking of Vita Vea, Ted Nguyen from The Athletic will join us coming up at 4 o'clock. Obviously, he tweeted out after the news of Vita Vea asking for a trade yesterday, tweeted out that, Vita wants to go to a California team or the Raiders. So that would be the Rams. That would be the Chargers. That would be the 49ers or the Silver and Black. And, look, that's out there. The Raiders will do with that what they want, right? If they've made calls, if they've, even if they thought about it, even if they're contemplating it, it is what it is. But we'll talk to Ted from really a film point of view. Does he fit with the Raiders' defense? And not that does he fit, because we know he does. He's a hell of a player, but at this stage of the game, at 31 years old, looking for a contract extension that's probably around $48 million over the next couple of years, does that make sense for what the Raiders are trying to do? So we'll talk to him about that, and he also has some work out right now about, just Raider training camp needs. So as we're right here on the eve of the first practice, we want to make sure we get that in as well. So as you can tell, we got a packed show. Excited about the opportunity, as we always are. Shantelle Chand at 2:30, Kirk Morrison at 3, John McClain at 3:30, and Ted Nguyen joining joins us coming up at 4 o'clock. Of course, we'll hear from you as well at 702-365-9200. That's the text line and the phone line. Speaking of the text line, Ari, it is the Summer of Fun brought to you by Terribles. Of course, we're going to continue giving out trips. We're going to continue giving out the cash. If you don't want to take the trip, it is $3,000 cash. And the trip this week, Grand Canyon and Sedona. So what is the word for today that they have to text in before 5 o'clock to get in to win?
It is white. W-H-I-T-E. White.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you
okay.
go. I sense a theme here. I mentioned it yesterday when you gave out the word. I said I feel like that these are recycled words from the 4th of July. So yesterday was red. Today's white. I ain't the smartest guy in the world. And I'm sure that you aren't either, but I'm sure you could probably put together what the word for tomorrow is going to be. I'll just go ahead and throw that little nugget out there for Raider Nation to soak up. So, yeah, there you go. White is the word for today, so text that in. You have till 5 o'clock, 702-365-9200. I'll get you in to win the trip, Grand Canyon and Sedona. And, of course, if you don't want to take the trip, you could always take the $3,000 cash. Who couldn't use $3,000 cash? So that's there in line for you. And, of course, we always want a winner. Again, as I mentioned on yesterday's show, and I'll continue to remind you throughout the course of the week, I will be at Treasure Island. TI, the Golden Circle Sportsbook, will be in there from 2 to 5 coming up on Friday. I was there last Friday, sliding in for our sister station, ESPN Las Vegas. Well, I'm going to run it back one more again, right? Going to do that again coming up on Friday. So I do encourage you to come on out, hang out. And I've been told that I'm supposed to have AC/DC tickets. So I'm going to keep on throwing that out there to the ether. So if I do, in fact, have those, that's something to get excited about. AC/DC's playing at Allegiant Stadium, so I'll have your tickets to that as well, amongst other things to give away. But that's always one of my favorite places to do shows live from, is the fact that I'll be at TI, and that's always great. And I believe JT will be at Grimaldi's in Henderson off of Eastern. He'll be there from 12 to 2 on Friday. So, you can – one-stop shop. Wherever you are riding around town, you can check out JT at Grimaldi's and then follow up a little bit later and check me out at TI at the Golden Circle Sportsbook from 2 to 5 p.m. So before we get into the opening drive and hear from you at 702-365-9200, we got to hear from our guy E-Rob. Yesterday was important. Tomorrow's important. Camp is important, but today isn't. Why is that?
Because every day matters. The older you get, the more you start appreciating day in and day out. Because I can't get that time back. I'm in the business of saying, not if I would have did this or if I would have did that. I'm in the business of now.
I'm in the business of now as well. So right now, let's jump into the opening drive.
The opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920 AM is brought to you by Paul Patta Law. It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery.
So it makes all the sense in the world now that training camp is here. It doesn't make sense a month ago. It didn't make sense 2 months ago. It didn't make sense after the draft, but it makes all the sense in the world today with training camp being here and the first day of practice coming up on tomorrow. What are you looking for? What is the camp competition that you're most intrigued by and why? Who is the player that intrigues you the most? Who do you think has an opportunity to push somebody for their job? Now is the time to talk about it, because now we're going to be about it. We're going to be able to see exactly what's going on. We're going to see exactly who's the leader in the clubhouse, exactly who may be falling a little bit behind. Now it's time for the action. So now we'll talk about the obvious, training camp competitions. I've let it be known multiple times that there's not a ton of positions that are up for grabs. I've said that. I'll stick by that. But there are a couple that I'm very, very intrigued by. But I do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. You heard Clint Kubiak on the way in talking about the guard battles. That, to me, is a massive one. The offensive line has to be put together. So the left guard, right guard, that competition right there, Spencer Burford, Caleb Rogers, JPJ, Trey Zune, right? That's competition right there. 4 dudes that I think is capable of holding those spots down. And no questions asked. I say it all the time when I talk about the quarterback position. If there's a game on Sunday, could they go out there and play? I say the quarterbacks could. If there was a game on Sunday, I feel like the offensive line could go out there and make it work with the guys that they have. Now, they wouldn't have any reps together. They wouldn't have any practice, but those guys could fill that void out of the 4 guys I just mentioned. Caleb Rogers, Spencer Burford, Trey Zune, and JPJ. All 4 of those guys, I believe, could be solid guards, led by Rick Dennison as the offensive line coach. So that's one of the big battles. The secondary, I've talked about that before. Who's going to be the corner across from Stokes? And what about the safety position? I mentioned Traden Stukes as a day 1 starter. I stick with that. Traden Stukes is a day 1 starter, but where is he starting? Is he starting in the safety spot? Is he starting out there where Isaiah Pola-Mao goes? Is he in the nickel where Teron Johnson is, the guy they traded for, the vet they traded for with the Buffalo Bills where they made a pick swap? I think Traden Stukes is one of those guys that you circle him and good things are going to happen. I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker for this Raiders defense. He's a guy I'm really excited and fired up about. The question is, where is he going to play? His versatility is fantastic. He could play in multiple different spots. And then, of course, the wide receiver position. Malik Benson, the 6th-round pick out of Oregon. There's a lot of buzz around him right now. And it's funny because the guy that he's battling with, there was a lot of buzz around him this time of year last year, Dante Thornton Jr. I think that is a hell of a competition. I really, truly do believe one of those two dudes is going to earn some real deal playing time, and the other guy is going to kind of sit on the shelf. And I actually give the upper hand to Benson right now because he has special teams skill set. He can be a guy in the special teams game as well, where Dante Thornton Jr., that's not going to be – I think he's got a hell of a battle on his hands. And I might have taken your answer, but those are the ones that I have when it comes to – training camp battles, true training camp battles. There's not much, but the guard positions, the quarterback across from Stokes, you know, who's going to be that other safety next to Jeremy Chin, and then Benson and Thornton Jr., the 2 wide receivers. And that's not saying that those guys are going to be starters, but you know that there's a healthy amount of talent in the wide receiver room, but we don't know exactly what role they play. But I do believe Malik Benson and Dante Thornton Jr. are battling neck and neck for that one position, whatever position, however they're going to divvy up that time and however much they're going to see them on the grass. That's why I think it's so important that one of them has to establish himself as that guy, as a guy that they can count on for this Raiders offense moving forward. But what says you? 702-365-9200. Now that training camp is here, practice starts tomorrow, what is the camp competition that you're most intrigued by? And why? Big Brent hit us on the text line. I want to see who our starting secondary is going to be. Obviously, the offensive line and quarterback is priority, but I'm really intrigued about who's going to be the guy on defense outside of Max. You know, that's a really good point, and I like the guys that they brought in, the veterans that they brought in, the Quay Walkers, the Nakobe Deans. I like those 2 additions in a major way. And then, of course, you know, when you talk about the secondary, and I just went through them, all the guys that they drafted. I'm not saying all the guys they drafted are going to pop or even pop right away, but they all have so much talent, and the one thing that they have is something that the Raiders have proven that they don't have, which is guys that can take the ball away. And I feel like that at some point in a passing league, you've got to find a way to get those dudes on the field because you need the defense to take the ball away. And if you have a healthy, motivated, angry Max like we've heard that he is, he's going to make those guys better, and those guys are going to make him better. They work hand in hand, right? If the coverage is good, right, the edge rushers, the pass rushers, the defensive tackles have a chance to get to the quarterback. If the pass rush is good, the defensive tackles are getting home, the edge rushers are getting home, the corners, it's going to make their job easier. They all work together. But the fact that they went out and got guys that can create havoc and create turnovers and take the ball away, and I know they haven't done it on the NFL level, but I'm not going to close my eyes and act like I don't see 5 career interceptions, 6 career interceptions, 7 career interceptions. I'm not going to do that, especially when you think about what the Seahawks did last year with their 18 interceptions that they have, their 7 fumbles recoveries that they had, and the 5 fumble touchdowns that they created. Like, you know, I'm not gonna say, because that's what you're aiming for. That's what you're going for, right? You're always looking for guys that can shorten the field, give you an opportunity. How much easier is it for Kirk Cousins and the Raiders offense to score if they're starting at the 50 as opposed to the 20 or the 25? Right? If you're already at midfield because you just came up with a big play and the momentum is shifted, and all of a sudden you've got Uncle Mo on your side and that energy and that juice on your side, that just helps everyone. How many times have we seen the Raiders turn the ball over and all of a sudden Uncle Mo went on the other side and they never got it back? It happens all the time. So those are such game-changing, such emotional type plays that you can see games just spin on a dime, right? Stop on a dime, do a little 360 spin, maybe do a little jig, and then keep it pushing, right? That's what those kind of plays do. Those are game changers. Think about the play Max made last year where he batted the ball up, and that was against Chicago, right? Batted the ball up in the air, intercepted it, And all of us, when he intercepted it, we all were like, damn, I hope he gets to the house. I hope he takes it all the way back, right? Because none of us had confidence that the Raiders were going to score a touchdown. None of us. I was hoping that he was going to take that bad boy to the house. And you know the thing about that is the play he made against Chicago at Allegiant Stadium was the exact same play I saw him make in training camp leading up. And that was one of the things you saw him seem like he was even working on more last year is getting his hands up at the end, tipping the ball up so he has a chance to go get it. And he did that last year in training camp and took it to the house. And I want to say he threw the football over the fence over where the bread factory is on the other side of the Raiders practice facility in training camp. I want to say he threw the ball over the fence. It might have been practice. It might not have been training camp. But either way, it was a hell of a play. It was right at the end of practice. But it was the same thing that you saw him do. So whenever they say you play like you practice, that was, to me, the exact result of what we saw him do in that practice session when he took that one to the house. The Raiders need to do more of that. I don't see enough interceptions in practice or training camp. I don't see enough tip balls that get picked off by the defense and taken the other way. We did see some this past mandatory minicamp and OTAs, which is very encouraging. Very encouraging. I just would like to see more. Vinny Bonsignor would like me to see more so I don't have to continue to hit him every time a ball hits the ground. And I'm like, damn it, that's another one of those, man. You got to make that play. But those are the game changers. Those are the ones that, how many times have you seen a ball get tipped up in the air and all of a sudden you hold your breath like, oh, damn, because you know it's going the other way. And then when it falls harmlessly to the ground, you're like, oh, okay, cool, got away with that one. More times than not, that tip ball doesn't get intercepted by the Raiders. And more times than not, when the ball gets tipped by the other team, they usually take it away. Those are game changers. So those guys that they brought in, the guys that they drafted, the Stukes, the Johnsons, the McCoys, the Masses, those guys all have ball skill. So I want to see how they get those guys onto the field. And I'm not trying to, turn them into all pros before they ever learn the NFL game. But, man, as long as they have that skill set in their back pocket, as long as that has a natural instinct to them, that's going to help this Robbie Leonard-led defense in a major way. 702-365-9200. East Oakland Raiders said, 1, I'm a cheat. Quarterback, I want to see someone take the job and grab it by the neck. Cousins is a starter, but will he remain? And 2, I want to see the offensive line competition. Will JPJ be out of luck or stepping up? And who else will emerge? It's a good question. I had a buddy of mine ask me straight up over the weekend, hey, man, is JPJ going to be on this team this year? And I took a step back and I expect him to be on the team this year. I expect him to be the starting right guard. But that just kind of lets you know the uncertainty of that position. And JPJ has a really good fan base, but at the same time, it's like, it's year 3. It's time to step up and solidify who you're going to be. Are you going to be that guy? Or are you going to be inconsistent? Are you going to be available? The one thing I know, and we heard Kubiak say it at the top of the show. When you talk about the guard battle, what do you say? Consistency. Can JPJ be consistent? He might be the baddest man in the land, right? He might be the king of the jungle, right? But if he can't be the king of the jungle consistently and work together with the other dudes around him to create the Avengers or whatever you want to call them, right? The guys that are going to all, build that strong, solid offensive line that can open up holes for Genty, protect Cousins, protect Mendoza, and, again, just be consistent. Is he going to be that guy? That's why that guard competition is going to be so strong. I think we all know the kind of skill set that he has. I think we've all seen the toughness that he brings and the want to that he has. But he's got to be on the field, and he's got to be on the field consistently. That's going to be huge for JPJ during training camp, and that's definitely something to pay attention to. Central Coast Raiders says, Senor Q, good afternoon. Most intriguing thing for me has to be the wide receivers. Tucker or Jalen, which one could become Cousins or Mendoza's go-to? Or another rookie wide receiver pops into camp. That changes the whole passing offense for me. Someone has to take the pressure off Brock. Go Raiders. Someone does have to take the pressure off Brock. That's been the knock on the Raiders all offseason, right? Yeah, but how many yeah buts have we heard? If I had $1 for every yeah but I heard about the moves that the Raiders made, I'd be rich. I'd be doing this show from an awesome island in Hawaii right now. right? I'd be kicking it somewhere with a Mai Tai in my hand. Because that's all we've heard all offseason. Yeah, but they got the quarterback, but they don't have a wide receiver. They got the running back, but they don't have a wide receiver. They got the best tight end in the land, but they don't have a wide receiver. That's all we've heard. So to Central Coast Raiders' point, someone's got to take the pressure off Brock. Who's that going to be? What, didn't Eminem say with the real Slim Shady, please stand up, please stand up? Someone's got to stand up. Someone's got to identify themselves. Like I said, I think Malik Benson and Dante Thornton Jr. are going to be in a battle. Jack Besh is a guy that I believe could be a security blanket go-to drive extender for the quarterback position for this Raiders offense. He's got to show it. He's got to prove. Tucker, Jalen Naylor. Naylor was a guy that they prioritized in free agency. They brought him in. Tucker continues to get better and better each and every year. James Jones is a big fan of Trey Tucker. Big fan, just by seeing what he does. And I respect the hell out of Trey Tucker because he practices like he plays, fast, full speed. Doesn't, when they always said, don't cheat the drill, don't cheat the rep, he doesn't. He goes full throttle throughout the course of practice. I can respect that because it's easy on game day. You play, again, how you practice. So keep that feedback coming, 702-365-9200. Training camp is here. Give yourself a round of applause for making it to this point. Practice starts tomorrow. What is the camp competition that you're most intrigued by and why? 702-365-9200. Let us know your thoughts. Shantelle Chand, Raider Squad Show. She joins us next. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
That was the opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM. Brought to you by Paul Padala. It's not about the injury. It's about the recovery.
They're not in a win now mode. I think that's the kind of guy you bring in a win now mode. So is he a great? I've always liked Vita Vea. He's a dog.
Yep.
This 31-year-old veteran fit with what they're trying to do right now, and I don't think it's necessary right now. They're not. It's not a win now type of team. I think that's like a Myles Garrett to the Rams kind of situation where it's a big difference.
Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
That was our good friend Amber Thea Harris as part of the Raider Squad Show this morning with Shantelle Chand and myself. Held it down for 1 hour long, 1 hour strong. Of course, we got into that Vita Vea conversation and the fact that it's been reported by Ted Nguyen, who will join the show coming up at 4 o'clock, that he wants to go after making a trade request from Tampa Bay. He wants to play for a California team or the Raiders. So you hear Amber's thoughts on if Vita makes sense. I've shared my thoughts on if he's made sense. And, of course, Raider Nation, you chimed in as well at 702-365-9200. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on Raider Nation Radio 920. We welcome in Shantelle Chand from the Raider Squad Show here on the show. And, Shantelle, thanks so much for your time. I do appreciate you. And so what are your thoughts? It's been a little while. We talked about it this morning on the Squad Show, but Vita Vea, 31 years old, hell of a player, a dog, as Amber Theo Harris described, but does he make sense for this Raiders team at this stage of the game?
I think right now what the Raiders are trying to build with all the young talent, I don't think it necessarily makes sense, but I think the ties with John Spytek, them knowing each other really well, and the fact that I think a lot of people in Raider Nation would be excited to see Vita Vea and Max Crosby play together. I mean, that would transform the defense right away if you were to add a piece like him. He was a guy that played every game last season, so he's not injury prone, but the only thing is he's 31 years old. And what the Raiders are trying to do, I don't know if you necessarily want to bring in somebody that's 31 years old, and then you also think about the cap space and how much he's going to cost and the years you're going to get out of him. So you're thinking 31, 32, 33. And that's kind of, getting on the tail end of your career for most players in the NFL. So if I'm the Raiders and I'm seeing all this young talent, John Spytek is really trying to build through the draft. I don't think the Raiders right now are looking to add a piece like Vita Vea, but obviously if you're John Spytek, you're probably making that call and just seeing, what you could get for him. Because if it's a second rounder, which maybe you're able to get Vita Vea for a second rounder, maybe you think about it. But with everything that the Raiders are trying to do within building throughout the draft and bringing in young players and, trying to develop that talent, I think they might be looking to do that instead of adding a veteran like Vita Vea.
Yeah, I think that a second rounder would probably be a little bit rich as well. But again, I mean, that's why you pick up the phone and make the call, right? And I do think that John Spytek, as a responsible GM, would do that, especially since he has those ties and connection with Jason Licht there in Tampa Bay. Again, Shantelle Chand is with us here, RaiderNation Radio 920. So something that we also talked about quite a bit this morning on the Squad Show was training camp. You were dying to get the training camp conversation. So we talked to Clint Kubiak earlier today. The first practice is coming up tomorrow. For you in particular, as I asked Raider Nation, what is the camp competition that you're most intrigued by and why?
I think for me, it's the offensive line, and it's probably because I've been talking to Lincoln Kennedy too much here. But this is something that we've been looking at for months. This is something where when they added a guy like Tyler Linderbaum, we were like, whoa, John Spytek making moves and right away making the offensive line better, because how the season ended last year, they were, arguably the worst offensive line in the whole entire league. So to add Tyler Linderbaum, you go draft a guy like Trey Zune that can play multiple positions on the line, and you're just adding pieces. Like, you still have, a Charles Grant, you still have a Caleb Rogers, and we don't know what they're actually going to be because we didn't get to see them on the field last season that much, especially if you're someone like Charles Grant. But there's competition now for that offensive line, so that's where I'm going to be looking, especially when it comes to that right guard position or even the right tackle position, because I know everyone's kind of expecting DJ Glaze to also have a good season this year, and I would like him to as well. But I really want to see how he's developed, and I really want to see what type of noise JPJ makes, because, he's got a beehive. I always say this. He's got a beehive, and he's got to stay healthy. As you and Link always say, you can't make the club in the tub. And, it'll be interesting to see. So that's where my eyes are going to be. It's going to be on that offensive line.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about JPJ. East Oakland Raider actually texted us in earlier, and he said, will JPJ be out of luck, or is he going to step up? So, I mean, this seems like, to me, Shantelle, a huge training camp for JPJ. How big do you think this camp is for him?
I think it's a make or break camp for him, just because of everything that kind of went on last year. This was a guy that was moved to different spots on the offensive line. He was dealing with injury. So for JPJ, I think he really has to show out. I think he has to solidify a position. And when he's playing good, like, no doubt about it, he brings a different type of energy to this offensive line. And Raider Nation absolutely loves it. I want to see JPJ win, but it's really up to him to see what he does on this offensive line. He's got competition this season, too, and I think that's going to make him go a little bit harder.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely has a lot of competition. Shantelle Chand, Raider Squad Show, is with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920. Another text that we got was about the wide receiver position, and I mentioned in particular Malik Benson and Dante Thornton Jr. What do you think about that competition between those two guys?
Well, Dante Thornton Jr. has a lot to prove, because Malik Benson, even when it was like mini camp, rookie camp, like, a lot of people were talking about him. He's coming off his best season in Oregon, and he's a guy that's extremely fast. And we've talked a lot about him being on special teams, but I think he's really going to fight for that position. And if I'm Dante Thornton Jr., I think you have to also really go hard and fight for this position, because he could get beat out by someone like Malik Benson that's coming in really hungry. And as for someone like Dante Thornton Jr., we also want to see how he is developing. He's got all the attributes, and I think last training camp, everyone was really, really excited for him. And, the season just didn't go as we all thought it was going to go. We thought it'd be a lot better than what we saw last season. We didn't expect those big blowouts, but also, like, it goes back to the offensive line. Like, if this offensive line doesn't play well and they don't have that chemistry, it doesn't really matter who's going to be at quarterback throwing the ball to these wide receivers. So I think it all comes down to the whole entire offense, but that battle is going to be really interesting. And, I'm really big on Malik Benson, so yeah. I think he could really, fight for a position, even a starting role, to be honest with you, because this is a wide receiver room that isn't proven.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right about that. There's a lot of talent in that room, but like you said, it's unproven. We don't know exactly what they're going to be moving forward. But Shantelle, you said it. You said the quarterback position, and it's taken 8 or 9 minutes in this conversation before we got to the quarterback position. Clint Kubiak said today that Kirk Cousins will start tomorrow, right? He's earned that. He's played really good football, and he expects Aiden O'Connell and Fernando Mendoza obviously to push him and challenge him. But hearing the head coach say Kirk Cousins is the starter tomorrow, what was going through your mind?
I agree with Clint Kubiak. I mean, he's the quarterback whisperer, right? Like, he knows what's up. So if you're thinking about Kirk Cousins, when he was in that Clint Kubiak system, when he was with Clint Kubiak in the past, he had one of his best seasons. he knows the system. He's an experienced quarterback. And if Kirk can also stay healthy, like, why not roll with him? I was at one point thinking when they drafted Fernando Mendoza, I was like, okay, we got to see him week 1. We got to see, right away. But now I'm like, they have options where they can, really develop a guy like Fernando Mendoza. They don't have to rush him. They don't have to put him behind an offensive line that hasn't gelled together right away. So Kirk Cousins is that veteran quarterback. He has all the experience. He knows Clint Kubiak really well. He's going to know that system really well. And I like that choice to go with him.
What did you think about just what Clint Kubiak had to say, just his opening presser for training camp, kind of setting the tone for what we should expect tomorrow and throughout the course of training camp?
I mean, I think he's all business. He's all football, and I think that's what I really appreciate about him. You can tell that he just really, really loves the game, and he wants his players to earn it. And that's kind of been the theme ever since, there was mini camp, rookie camp. He wants his guys to earn it. And, that even goes for someone like, Fernando Mendoza. And he said, he's going to have to earn that. So I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far. I think everyone's really going to buy into everything that Clint Kubiak is saying. And he's coming off, a season where he won the Super Bowl. So,
right.
He's coming in with a lot of momentum. And I think everyone is just really excited with the pieces that they brought in, the coaching staff. It's a good mix of young talent and experienced guys. So I think also the staff that Clint Kubiak has put together, I'm really excited about it.
Shantelle Chand, Raider Squad Show, is with us here at RaiderNation Radio 920. Just got a couple more quick questions for you. What did you think about the defense, the additions that they've made, and how they can help and potentially help Max Crosby out this season for Robbie Leonard and the team?
It's interesting you asked that because, before I hopped on, a little bit earlier, I was just looking at Quay Walker highlights. I think Quay Walker is going to have an unbelievable season. And, when they said they were going to switch to a 3-4 defense, you got to have quick linebackers, and bringing in Quay Walker, bringing in a guy like Nakobe Dean. Those guys are really quick. If Nakobe Dean can also stay healthy, I like the additions that they've made. The secondary finally got addressed. This was, a positional group that I was always concerned about, the last 2-3 years. And I think they've really drafted well. You said it as well, Q. You think Trayden Stukes is probably a day one starter. I mean, that's also a positional battle that we're going to be looking at. And he also has that experience. And I bring up Dalton Johnson. I know he's a rookie, but I love the fact that they have chemistry playing with each other. And I remember when they were talking to the media and they were both saying, they love the fact that they have all this chemistry and experience playing together where they know where they are on the field. They don't really got to say much to each other. And, obviously you still got that veteran in Eric Stokes. And I'm really impressed with what they've done with the secondary. I think it's been revamped. And we still don't even know what Jermod McCoy's going to be. I mean, you heard Clint Kubiak say in his presser today that they're really also going to try to develop him and get him ready because he hasn't played football for a year. But I think for the secondary, I'm really excited to see what they're going to be.
Yeah, no, I am as well. That's definitely one of the camp competitions that I'm looking at, especially when you go out and draft 4 guys in that secondary. That's attention to detail for sure. Well, Shantelle, we'll close out with this. And, I mean, you've been, a Raider fan. I've been a Raider fan. We've gone through the ups and the downs of this team. And this offseason has felt like it's really the start of a new chapter of Raider football. How does your fan feel in you, right? We call it the fan brain. How is your fan brain feeling right now at this stage of the game about this team and what they have the opportunity to build?
I can't lie to you, Q. It's always fan brain for me. Sometimes I gotta separate it. I'm excited this season. This is probably the season I've been the most optimistic, just because of the pieces that they've brought in, especially on defense. But also, when you draft a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, it kind of gives you hope because I love everything about the kid, everything that he says. He says all the right things. He seems like he's a hard worker, and they're really trying to build around him and the pieces that they brought in, like Tyler Linderbaum. So I'm just really excited. I think John Spytek has done a great job of bringing in some really good young talent. I really like the draft as well. So for the first time in a long time, too, I'm extremely excited, but I know I got to pump my brakes. I'm not thinking the Raiders are going to win 10 games here, but if they can double the amount from last year, which was 3 games, and have 6 wins this season, I would be satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good start. 6-7 wins is a good start. I know that everyone wants more, but to double or do a little bit better would obviously be a great start for Clint Kubiak and company. I actually had someone tell me on yesterday, this is the first time in a long time I'm going into training camp not mad. So, I guess that tells you all you need to know. For the first time in a long time, a Raider fan is not angry at how they're feeling about this team going into training camp, which kind of tells you all that you need to know. Well, really good stuff. As always, Shantelle, we always appreciate catching up with you. What are you working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Doing WNBA sidelines, so obviously
Nice.
tonight locally in Seattle covering that game against the Fever, and then I'll be down in Portland on Friday for the national game to cover the Portland Fire and the Indiana Fever. But always a pleasure to chat with you, Q, and shout out to Ari as well. He does a great job, making sure everything's right on that YouTube page, so shout out to both of y'all, and thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Great stuff as always. Have fun at those games. We definitely appreciate you. Shantelle Chand right there, Raiders Squad Show, and doing sidelines for the WNBA, does a hell of a job, covers boxing, MMA, does a whole lot of different things. She wears many hats, and she does it well. Shantelle Chand, Raiders Squad Show, with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920, 702-365-9200. Training camp's here. Practice starts tomorrow. What is the camp competition that you are most intrigued by, and why? We've got Kirk Morrison joining us at the top of the hour. We'll hear from you next, though. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
I'm just telling you right now, don't sleep on the Raiders. I think they're going to be in a lot of games and win a lot of games that you don't expect. If I knew Fernando Mendoza was starting week 1 instead of Kirk Cousins, I would take the Raiders to win 9+ games. I think everything is there, but I want to see Fernando Mendoza starts week number 1.
You're listening to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Brought to you by Meineke, doing car care right.
Adam Shine right there, Shine Time Podcast, talking about the Raiders. Don't sleep on them. He really went off yesterday. It was about a 3-minute kind of rant on the Raiders and how folks were sleeping on them, which was funny and appropriate because we were talking about the Raiders being overlooked on yesterday's show. And then I saw that, of course, after the show, and I said, why wouldn't I find it after the show? But that's all good. It still fits with the narrative. And then I also saw him double down and have a conversation with Evan Washburn from CBS Sports, where he was talking about the Raiders and what to do with Fernando Mendoza. And obviously that's a subject for debate for the longest. I mean, I got people hitting me up. Q, do we have to talk about Kirk Cousins or Fernando? Look, it ain't on me. The reality is it's one of the biggest storylines in the National Football League, not just with the Raiders. It's one of the biggest storylines in the National Football League. Everyone who's talking about football, everyone who's talking about expectations are all wondering, hey, when are we going to see the number 1 overall pick? That's just everything. And that's the beauty of having the number 1 overall pick and having him be the quarterback and having him be a Heisman Trophy winner, a national champion. Everyone wants to see what he's going to do on the NFL level, from people that are big supporters of him. Like I heard Pat McAfee today on ESPN, him and Dan Orlovsky get into it. And remember, Dan O didn't, have glowing reviews of Fernando and in his journey to the NFL. And they got into it back and forth. And Pat's screaming at him, telling him how great Fernando's going to be. And, Dan's like, I'm not saying he's not going to be great. I'm just saying that, right now he's not going to know the entire playbook. So I don't think you should start him right now. And, well, we hear from Clint Kubiak today that at least on tomorrow, and it seems like the foreseeable future until told otherwise, Kirk Cousins is going to be that starting quarterback. He's earned it. He's played great football. Clint Kubiak's words, not mine. And that's what you expect, especially with the options that they've had. And that's kind of what the expectation was when the Raiders signed Kirk Cousins. So it's so funny when we talked about that back and forth and that dynamic and hearing what Clint Kubiak had to say, myself and Brandy Flores, we looked at each other and said, yeah, the worst kept secret. that Kirk Cousins was going to be starting, at least in training camp, coming up tomorrow. But, of course, things could change. The best man, whoever that is, at all the positions, should be the guy that's out there starting at those positions. And there's going to be a lot of new out there for the Raiders, whether it's rookies out there representing or it's guys that they brought in free agency that'll be out there as starters for this team. There will be a lot of new moving forward. We do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. We got Kirk Morrison coming up at the top of the hour, but training camp's here. Practice will start tomorrow. What is the camp competition that you're most intrigued by and why? Raider Donut in Fresno said, football forever is stating that the Raiders have made an offer for Vita Vea per Mitchell Renz. Have you heard anything about this story? I don't like it. I don't like it if it's true. Thanks for your time. Go Raiders. Nah, look, I ain't worried about it. I've seen those reports that are out there. I'll wait until I hear it from someone that I know is around the building and someone that I know is talking to people inside the building. And that's not to take away from anyone else, but there's certain people that are go-tos for me, and people that aren't anywhere around the building are not the ones that are go-tos for me. So, again, not discrediting anybody. I don't want to sound like I'm taking a shot at anyone, but we'll see, right? I mean, it's kind of out of our control. We know that Spytek has a great relationship with all those guys at Tampa Bay, so I would not be surprised at all if they picked up a phone. I don't know if they've all of a sudden 1 day later after the trade request have a trade offer on the table. That seems a little hasty, but again, that's just me, and I really don't know if that helps answer the question. So I guess it probably doesn't. But thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. Brent said there's something different about Coach Kubiak. I love the no-nonsense, all-ball mentality. It truly does have a different feel going into training camp. I'm with you on that as well. And then this one from Diego in Arizona. The competition I'm looking for is defensive tackle. The tackle position has more depth than any other position, I believe. AB, Booker, Jonah, JJ, Tonka, and to think one of those two will be starting is insane. A trade for Vita doesn't make sense unless you trade the same position player, but I would love it. It gives the offense a shorter field or a 3-and-out and puts the points up. So there you go. A lot of conversation back and forth about, Vita Vea and the competition at the defensive tackle position. There's a lot of young dudes in that spot. I just don't know, as Shantelle pointed out when she joined the show and Amber Thea Harris said on the Raider Squad show, and I've said multiple times yesterday, I just don't know at this stage of the game when they're trying to build that culture and start to lay that foundation if that's the guy that they want right now. Now, if that was a year or two into what they're doing, then, okay, they might be that guy away from really having a stout defense. I just don't know if that's where they're at right now. But if they do choose to go in that direction, I don't think anyone in RaiderNation is going to be upset. Because one thing I can tell you about Vita Vea is he's a dog, right? His character is huge as far as football, accountability, motivating. And he's that guy that you know that you can count on. That's the kind of guys that John Spytek is looking for. So if there is any kind of silver lining or if there is any kind of, truth to the fact that they're looking in Vita Vea's direction, that would be the reason why, obviously, John Spytek knows him really well. Thanks so much for the text. Do appreciate that. Kirk Morrison kicks off hour number 2. We'll do that next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't get to even put pads on, I think, till the, 6th practice. So we got a lot of work to do before then. But, we have a lot of talented players at that position. They'll make the decision for us. So we're going to coach them up. And then we also know that whoever started in week 1 doesn't mean that's the starter in week 17. So we're always developing and getting guys better throughout the entire training camp and throughout the whole season.
Las Vegas Raiders color analyst Kirk Morrison joins us now on Unnecessary Roughness.
Another great line right there from Clint Kubiak. They'll make the decision for us, a.k.a. it will reveal itself, right? Something that we talk about quite a bit here on Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920. And we did get to speak with head coach Clint Kubiak earlier today at the Raiders facility, officially opening up the 2026 training camp with the first day of practice coming up on tomorrow. Joining us now is a man that I got to see over at the facility today, Kirk Morrison, Raiders broadcast, Tackle for Loss TV, and, of course, longtime NFL and Raider linebacker. And, Kirk, it was great to see you. How'd it feel, man, just to know that we basically made it all the way through the summer, and here we are for training camp. You got to talk to the team, and we got to talk to the coach.
Yeah, man, it was fun. It's always fun. First couple of days, right? Training camp is always exciting just to be around everybody. There's a big turnout for Clint Kubiak's press conference, and then going in there talking to the guys just about media, how to interact with the media members and how they do their job and how we continue to help you in doing your job as players and how we can kind of meet in between. So it was always great, man, just to see the guys. They're ready to roll. Everyone passed their conditioning test, so they're happy about that. They're ready to roll. So that's how it is the first week of training camp.
How valuable have you found it to be able to talk to the guys and kind of tell them, hey, this is what the media is here for. This is how we help you. And, just kind of be that inner guy, that in-between guy, because you've been on both sides of it now.
Well, just make sure you're getting your message across. I said because nationally, everybody who doesn't cover the Raiders on a local level, their whole thing is Fernando Mendoza, Kirk Cousins, it's Max Crosby, it's Clint Kubiak. So my thing is, they don't know, so we're going to make sure they know. And that's by everybody going out and performing and practicing hard and when you get your opportunities in the preseason and in the regular season, that's how you can change the narrative on what people are going to be talking about with the Raiders. But for right now, it's like that with every team. You know what I'm saying? I tried my best to dive in and with other teams and see what the storylines are. But, you know, on Friday, we'll meet with the Rams on Friday as I do a training camp tour I've done every year for Sirius XM. And, you know, the big thing there is Myles Garrett, Ty Simpson, and then maybe Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? Like, it's just those are the big topics, right? We don't know that they may have a battle at the left guard position or the right guard or who's going to be starting next to this new secondary that's revamped. Like, that's one thing. So I think for us on the local level covering the Team Q, it is different because we do know that there's a lot going on with competition battles at certain positions and how groups will kind of come together and start to develop. And then also, too, you just got new defensive coordinator that's, I don't think, being talked about enough nationally, that this is going to be a different defense with Rob Leonard. So it's kind of funny that I try to bring that up to the guys like, look, don't worry about it. Just have some answers prepared because that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get. Everybody, that's all they want to talk about. I mean, I was at the Monster Jam truck show with my kids last week, and my buddy who was sitting next to us had a Fernando Mendoza jersey on, you know, at the truck. And I'm like, oh, what's up, man? You a Fernando fan? Yeah, man. And so I didn't tell him I was a Raiders, you know, broadcaster. I even played. He was just like, yeah, man, I think he's going to start. I want to see him start at quarterback. And I'm like, this is a random fan. I don't even know his name. He has no idea what I do because, you know, sometimes, you know, my kids, they like to say, you know, my dad used to play for the Raiders. But no, we're just having a good time at the Monster Truck. And yet here's a regular fan saying like, oh, is Fernando going to start? You know, I want to see Fernando play. You know what I mean? Like, I pull so many people, but that's the national story. And I can't wait till it kind of dies down a little bit and we can just focus on, you know, where this team is going to be as a whole in 2026.
I'm so glad you said that. I had just mentioned earlier in the show that Fernando Mendoza starting is not just a Raider topic. It's a National Football League national-wide topic. That's just what it is, right? Regardless, as much as we want to talk about other things, it's about Fernando and Kirk Cousins. And Clint said today, and you called it the mic drop moment, hey, Kirk Cousins is going to be the starting quarterback tomorrow. What did you think about the way that Clint Kubiak said it? It wasn't a surprise that he said that, but the way he said it.
Yeah, the way he said it was like no controversy, right? Because we've heard that there'll be a sprinkling of Fernando Mendoza reps with the first team. But, you know, I just loved everything that Clint had to say, man. He's just all ball, man. It's just I love that about him. His personality is football. I was actually able to get a laugh out of him before the team meeting. I did. I made him laugh because I told him, I said, your approach has really helped me as a husband. And he was like, wait, what? I said, how so? I said, because my wife bought all these art pieces, and so she wants to put them around the house. And so she bought them all, and she put them up too quickly. And she told me, she was like, I think it's cluttered. And then I told her, I said, see, you should have bought them one at a time and then put them up. You know why? Because it would have revealed itself on what you want to do. And she was like, what? I was like, man, thank Clint Kubiak for that one, baby. It will reveal itself what we need. I told you that, Q. We go on vacation. Oh, let's have an itinerary. No, it'll reveal itself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, people want to come to Vegas and like, oh, I can't wait to go to Vegas. I'm going to go to the Strip. I'm going to go to the Sphere. And then all of a sudden they get out there in that heat. And then they were like, okay, now we got to get some indoor activities. See, because the heat will reveal itself on what you can do. So I'll bring all that up just to say like that was the mic drop moment. And I thought it just basically told everybody we've got a plan in place. We'll figure things out along the way. But Kirk Cousins has earned the right. And if we're evaluating off of the OTA and the minicamp, the best quarterback was Kirk Cousins.
Facts. Big facts right there, and that's why he's going to be getting those starting reps. And Clint Kubiak, he put that to rest really quickly. Again, Kirk Morrison is with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920. So what do you think about the different competition, especially on the offensive line, and talking about the consistency. Clint Kubiak mentioned that in the guard positions in particular, the consistency and being able to do that at a high level and get along with the teammate next to you. It's not about just being the best guard, but you also have to fit with the other guys around them.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we know right now, obviously, is Colton Miller, Tyler Lindenbaum, and I would say throw DJ Glaze's name in there. But again, there could be more competition. You just try to find the best five. I think right now we have two of the five because the other guys are really kind of, to me, they're still left for competition. And what you did in the draft and what you did in free agency and the guys who you brought in, there will be a mixing and a shuffling. And the best five will come up. So I like that competition. I like the competition in the secondary as well. You know what I mean? Because now you brought in some young players who can play. And from listening from what Clint Kubiak said, Jermon McCoy is going to be out there playing. He's out there playing, and they're gonna figure out something. But we haven't seen Jermon McCoy truly fully during the offseason, and now this could be an opportunity that he could be a starting cornerback. I mean, that's just the reality of when he keeps talking about competition. And in the wide receiving room, right? Who's going to be wide receivers that will go out there when they call 11 personnel, and it's Brock Bowers at tight end, and they need 3 receivers? Jalen Naylor will be one. Who's the other 2? Is it Trey Tucker? Is it Dante Thornton or Jack Besh? Like, you know what I mean? Like, There's going to be a group of guys who get an opportunity. And so I think the bigger thing is, too, I love that this roster is just not set yet. To see going to training camp and you add 3 new guys to your roster, right, and you let go of guys, it's good. But, we're going to shift some narratives. We're going to go around and we're going to look at some things, Q, but it's just what I love about it, because last week everybody was ready to put a yellow jacket on Laki Tassi, and now he's no longer on the team. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they just how quickly this stuff changes every single week with the fan base. And I'm like, everybody, let's just cool it, relax. We'll see as training camp goes along, but everybody wants to see this and wants to see that. I feel like I'm not far removed that last year we thought Tommy Mellott was the next Julian Edelman. Remember that?
Man, facts. I remember that. Yep. We got
to give him more reps. I mean, we got to give him more reps. Like, bro's not even in the league anymore. Let's just relax, everybody. But before we want to have – we put expectations on players, and that's honestly what I told a lot of guys today when I addressed the team about the media. Like, expectations are put on you. And sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's unfair, but that's what people do to you. Don't let that discourage for who you are. Like Ashton Jeanty last year, expectations were he was going to be, the number, top running back overall, and this is what you're going to be. You're going to be 1,000 yards rushing. You're going to get this many touchdowns, and he had a decent rookie season.
Yeah, he did.
I would take that all day. It could be better.
Right.
But now the expectation for Jeremiah Love over in Arizona is what Ashton Jeanty did last year. And that team in Arizona doesn't look very good at the moment. But that's what he has. So expectations are put on a lot of folks, players who are drafted, players who are free agents that have come in. And so my thing is that sometimes you may not reach the expectation of others, but there's an expectation within this team that you can reach. And that's all that matters. You can't worry about what on the outside think about. How can I be the best teammate? How can I be the best productive player that helps this team win games?
Where do you think this Raiders team is as far as trying to bring players in from outside? Obviously, the Vita Vea conversation is floating around. Do you think that that's a smart move at this stage of the game with what they're trying to build?
Not at the moment. No, I don't believe so. Like I said, I think I've told you from the beginning, I'm more interested in seeing what the Raiders do when it comes to claiming guys on waivers. Mm-hmm. The Raiders hold the number 1 claim spot, and so you're going to be able to get players who are, fringe of making a team that can create some either depth for the Raiders or bringing in guys who can be a key contributor. I mean, last year we make the trade for Thomas Booker, and we trade Jacorian Bennett. Everybody, oh, my God, we traded Jacorian Bennett. What are we doing? Our defense is going to suffer. I would say we got the better end of the trade with the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. Thomas Booker was re-signed, and he's actually playing. He's going to be in that rotation. I can't believe that. I will say that John Spytek really outdid Howie Roseman when it comes to this deal. And, I mean, who would have told you? Who would have thought that when you really think about it and break it down? So they're going to continue to bring in players, but I think these are more depth pieces. I think that they're looking at guys who can play special teams as well, but can give you something offensively and defensively. And the competition at the kicker is one I will continue to keep watching as well with, like I said, the Raiders' claim position of being able to claim players and have the first right of refusal before the rest of the 31 other teams will get a chance to try to claim some of these guys on waivers.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It really is. I love the fact that it gets started tomorrow. We made it through, the dead period. I say that in air quotes because, Kirk, I don't know about you. It didn't feel like it was too much downtime at all from the minute that the season ended to where we're at right now.
You know why? Because it was excitement. It was because you were looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. I think last year was like okay, and it was Pete Carroll, but outside of really Ashton Genty, there wasn't really much. I mean, not a lot of free agents that you're like, oh my God, this team is going to be ready to compete. It's like you look at the way this offseason has gone compared to last year, and it's like night and day. It's a big difference. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to talk about more last year. I always look at my notes and say, what were we talking about last year when it came to the Raiders? You know what last year's number one conversation was when it came to the Raiders? You know what it was?
Was it winning? Was it Pete Carroll always wins about 10 games?
That was one.
Right.
But the biggest thing that we talked about during Raiders training camp was the offensive line. Think about it.
Yep.
I look back at my notes. Mm-hmm. Storyline number one was the offensive line. JPJ and Kappa and Meredith.
That's right. Yep.
Then, why are they doing that? And then we also it was the cornerbacks because Eric Stokes hadn't really proven himself, and so who was going to start at cornerback? And then we got out there for week one, and Caillou Blue Kelly was your starter at cornerback. So, man, like I said, I'm a guy. I try not to live in the past sometimes, but it always does remind me of how far this team has come in a year. But that was the main conversation pieces. And now this year we're talking about, which of these two quarterbacks is going to start, right? We have champagne problems now for, Kirk Cousins or Fernando Mendoza. Or you've got a group of wide receivers who can go out there and play. Oh, by the way, I've with this whole interview, and I haven't even said Brock Bowers' name, who's the best tight end in the National Football League. So that just goes to show you that how exciting it is to start training camp because there's so many things to talk about, yet we didn't even get a chance to talk Brock Bowers and where he can go in year number 3.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, and we just kind of put him in the he's good, he's good category.
He good. Yeah, he good. Yeah, put him over there. We all right. See you week 1, Brock. You good?
Nothing to see there. Nothing to see at all. Well, let me close out with this. And you're a guy that took the ball away consistently. On defense, you saw ball and got ball. The Raiders brought guys in defensively that can do that. What is it about that mindset, right? You just have to have that mindset where you have a knack at getting the ball. The Raiders haven't had that in the past, and it feels like they've brought those guys into the organization now.
A lot of it is just trust within the system. I will say this. What helped me take the ball away was that I did play in a defensive system for more than a year, right? I played in a defensive system under Rob Ryan for multiple years. So by the time I got to year 3 within the system, I knew where I needed to be. I knew how I can help out, and I knew where I can go steal a play here or there. Or I could be more aggressive because I know what's behind me for the safety, or I know if there's a corner who's playing cloud coverage over there. Those are things I learned. And I remember 2007 when I had 4 interceptions that year, and I actually could have had more. That was honestly because I knew the system. I knew the scheme. And that's what I'm hoping how quickly these guys can really believe and trust in each other within the scheme to always know where everybody is. And then to know where the holes in the defense are because now you can be more aggressive. You know what I mean? That's what I always say. The teams who don't necessarily have a lot of takeaways and picks and things like that is because they're still understanding getting the defense down and building trust. And then also to offense too, right? I can go on a whole, we can do a whole little sit down on this, but like I said, if I play for the Kansas City Chiefs while Mahomes was there, trust me, I'm jumping everything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm jumping every route. because I'm not afraid to make a mistake because I have an offense that can go out and get me 40 a game, 35 a game.
Right.
Where the Raiders, last year, you make a mistake, you score a touchdown or a touchdown scored upon you, it's hard to get that one back when your offense only scores 14 points a game. Like, you can't make those same you can't go out and create those opportunities because one mistake and you feel like you just can't overcome it. Whereas there are other teams who can score a lot of points. That's how you get a lot of interceptions or takeaways because guys are willing to say, you know what, I believe in our offense. Let's go make those plays. That just wasn't part of the Raiders last year. It just didn't happen.
No, they didn't. They had 8 interceptions last year, and that was all, right? The Seahawks had 18. So, that just kind of tells you the nature of the beast. But the Seahawks scored 28 points a game, to your point, and the Raiders only scored 14. Yes, a huge difference.
That's a big difference. Huge difference.
Sir.
It's like third and 8, and I'm just trying to make the tackle. Whereas 3rd and 8, I'm trying to make a pick. It's totally different, right? In those two scenarios.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you bring up. And, again, you're always dropping knowledge on us, man. Fantastic stuff. We're back. We made it. Practice will be out there at the facility tomorrow. What are you working on? I know you'll be at practice, but what else are you working on that we should be on the lookout for?
I'm just working on should I wear a bucket hat or a straw hat.
Right.
Hey, man, it's hot.
It is.
I'm just worried about, how would I maintain. So I got to try to bring this little cooling towel. I'm going to bring a fan with me. Do I do the spray bottle fan or what? I just got to figure it out right there.
Go with the bucket hat. I like the bucket hat idea.
Okay, bucket hat. I'm gonna try that. I got to go in there and start asking and bumming from the equipment room.
There you go. Hey, look, just holler at Marcus, man. Marcus got you covered. You know Marcus will take good care of you. So there you go.
Yeah, I hope so. I take a recycled bucket hat. It don't even matter. I just need to keep this. You saw my head is bald, man. I'm not trying to get this. I might have had his head over there frying in front of that heat.
I heard that.
They do that. Yeah,
I heard that.
All right,
well,
Q, man.
It'll be bright early in the morning, man. 7:30. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
That's right, man. I'll see you in the morning.
All right, brother. There you go. It's Kirk Morrison. Fantastic stuff right there. I love that breakdown on taking the ball away. Really good stuff. That's something that we're going to have to go and revisit. We'll have to clip that sound right there and go back and use it for another conversation a little bit later on in whether it's in training camp or the regular season, depending on how this Robbie Leonard led defense. But make sure we hold that to the side. I thought that was a really good point that he brought up, and being able to be comfortable in the system, being able to go ahead and jump a route because he knows, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is the hole in the defense. That is a really good point. And so we'll see how quickly this defense can come together, led by Robbie Leonard, and how these guys can get comfortable with each other and trust the guy next to him to know that, hey, I could take a chance to make this play because I know my guy is going to be where he needs to be and he's got my back. That's really good stuff right there. I say it all the time. We learn a lot when Kirk Morrison joins the show. We've got John McClain. He'll join the show and coming up in about 10 minutes or so, but it is time for you to shine. 702-365-9200. Love to hear from you. Training camp is here. Practice starts tomorrow. What's the camp competition that you're most intrigued by and why? We got this one from Jay Will in San Diego. He said, Q, Ari, I just heard Kubiak say the wide receiver is going to have to perform in special teams. Do you think Dante Thornton has that in his toolbox? If not, he's cooked. That's Jay Will in San Diego. I do think that plays a part against Dante Thornton Jr. I don't see him as a special team ace. I don't see him as a gunner. I don't see him as a guy that's, going to be kicking or returning kicks. I don't see that. I do, however, see Malik Benson being that guy, and that's why when I talked about the competition, that's one I had written down on my outline here. The competition between Benson and Thornton Jr. I do think that helps give Malik Benson a step in the right direction, a foot up in this competition, because he does have that special teams ability. And look, that's one of the biggest things, man. You've got to have that special teams ability. If you're one of those dudes that are, fighting for your spot on the roster, if you can have that extra element, all that's going to do is help in a major way. So thanks so much for that text. Definitely appreciate you. 702-365-9200. John McClain joins us coming up at 3:30. Let's go out to the phone lines, though, and let's talk to our guy, Raider Dave in Denver. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, man, I'm not even going to call it a golden nugget. I'm going to call it a silver and black nugget. Boy, did he drop something right there, man. That is why when you see these backup DBs or even the starting DBs get interceptions in the preseason and you wonder why they're not doing it in the regular season, there's your silver and black nugget as to why right there, huh?
Yep, exactly.
I mean, And as far as going forward here with preseason and all that, man, it's got to be the hottest contested spot on the team would be right guard, don't you think? I mean, is it Kappa? Is it JPJ? Is it the guy that's Charles Grant, wasn't it, that started there? No, it was Robertson.
No, it's Carlos Rogers. Caleb Rogers. Caleb Rogers. I was thinking Carlos Rogers, basketball player.
That's where it does right there.
Yep.
And a tidbit for him, if Morris is still listening, is you got to get one of these hats out of Arizona that has a misting system right on it. Looks like those old hats with all the six-pack around it, but actually it's got a little motor in it, and it mists the whole time, man. I bet that would be something that would go pretty well at 7:30, 8 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning over there. I think it would work pretty well.
No, I agree with that. Raider Dave, really good stuff, man. Really good call. And yeah, the right guard, you got JPJ, you've got Caleb Rogers. It's funny, I always call him Carlos Rogers. He was, I think he played for the Warriors. But anyway, Caleb Rogers is in the competition. You've got who else was it? Oh, Trey Zoon. I don't know how I'm forgetting him. Obviously, they also brought over my man from the 49ers. How do I blanket on all these? Which one? Burford. Yeah, Spencer Burford. There you go. So Ari's trying to mouth it to me through video. I can't. Hey, man, I ain't reading your lips, homie.
That's all good. By the way, I get Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant mixed up all the time.
I
want to call him Caleb Grant and
right. Yeah, Charles Grant though he's most likely going to be competing with DJ Glaze at the tackle spot. So yeah, all these names are running together. So don't get me lying to you. I'm gonna get them all messed up. I'll have you saying someone's name that doesn't even exist yet. I'm creating new names, right? It's like Madden, create a character. I'm creating a player all of a sudden. So don't get me lying. My bad on that one. Let's go out to Oregon and talk to Charles real quick. Charles, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, Q. So
yes, sir.
I was thinking about, like 1 year ago, everything was about competition, and Pete Carroll saying we're going to win at least 10 games and all that. And he talked so much about competition, and then it felt like throughout the season, he didn't allow for competition, it felt like. It was like there were favorites, and you were either a favorite or you weren't, or you were in the doghouse, whether it's JPJ or Besh or Thornton after a while, so it just felt like there was no competition. 2 years ago, it was like, hey, we got this quarterback battle. And it was like when your grandma says, do you want some black licorice or do you want chocolate-covered raisins? And you don't want either one of them. You're looking at, no offense, but Aiden O'Connell or the other guy, mustache dude. Neither one felt great, so the competition didn't feel real. The exciting thing about training camp this year is when you ask this question, there are so many exciting things to look at, whether it's the DBs, masses, Jermon McCoy. Is Darian Porter going to step up? Is Trayden Stukes and Dalton Johnson going to have some synergy going on? There are so much in the DB room that it's so exciting. You look at the wide receivers, right? Malik Benson, is he going to step up on special teams? And, we got our own version of JSN and Jalen Speedy Naylor, right? And then when we talk about the quarterbacks, you know what I want to see? I want to see is Fernando, he's been saying, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. He's really humble. But are your actions going to try your best to take the job from Kirk Cousins? I want to see a dog out there. I don't want to see, humility, I get it.
Right.
Something to be said for it. But you got to fight for that. I want to see your actions say, I am the quarterback. I am this franchise leader as the quarterback, and that's what I want to see at Fernando. But here's the thing. None of any of this, defense, special teams, offense, none of it works unless that O-line is figured out. And so when I finally came upon what's the most important thing, it's that competition. Is Burford going to come in knowing the system and just rock it? Again, is Caleb Rogers going to take the job from JPJ? They've got to come together, all five, and form a unit that dominates, or none of this is going to work. So I'm going to go with the O-line, but there's so many exciting competitions and battles. I can't wait to see it. Hey, God bless you guys. Have a great day.
Hey, great call, Charles. We always appreciate you. And, yeah, all roads lead back to the offensive line, as they should. Really good points that you bring up about the competitions, and there truly are some competitions coming up in this camp. Again, I always say it, there's a lot of positions that are already accounted for. but there definitely are some position battles, and you just rattled off a few of them, and probably none more important than that battle on the offensive line at those guards positions. 702-365-9200. Keep that feedback coming up on the text line. John McClain, he joins us next. We'll scatter shoot all things NFL. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
I think they will continue to try to work or at least convince him that he needs to play, even if it's under the last year of his contract. Again, if you start finding guys $50,000 a day, that changes your perspective pretty quickly on how much money you're losing. So I don't know that they'll go that route, but I can't remember a Buccaneer player requesting a trade and it being granted by the Glazers. I haven't seen that one in some time, so I don't think they're going to start making that precedent now.
It's time for our weekly visit with the Hall of Famer John McClain. Right now on Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q.
And we come into the sounds of Rick Stroud, who's been covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a very long time. He was on my show on Game Night last night talking about the Vita Vea trade, and he didn't see a scenario where the Glazers were going to okay that trade after he's made that request. And we know he's talked about California teams, apparently, according to report, or the Raiders. Of course, that's made Raider Nation get all hot and bothered about a potential Vita Vea to the silver and black. It's Unnecessary Roughness here on Raider Nation Radio 920. John McClain does join us now here on the phone lines. And, John, you taught me this a long time ago. It's always about the money. And clearly it's about the money with Vita Vea wanting out of Tampa Bay. How do you think Tampa Bay goes about and handles this guy who's a huge, important piece to Todd Bowles' defense?
First of all, he's 31 years old. They're not going to get a lot for a 31-year-old tackle. Why in the world would Raider fans think they wanted Vita Vea? We're not going to the playoffs this year. They're not going to the Super Bowl this year. You make big trades when you think a player can be the difference. It's like here, everybody was saying the Texans need to trade for Dexter Lawrence. And he didn't do squat last year. That, to me, if you're going to actually trade for Vea, you're not going to give up much to get him, and he better be the missing link for you being a playoff team or a possible Super Bowl team. And but at this time of year, players don't get their game checks till the season starts. Who cares who's not in? And as Rick Stroud said, if you're under contract and you don't show up and you start forking over $50,000 a day, that tends to add up, and they cannot forgive the money that's fined like they used to. Also part of the CBA that was implemented to keep veterans from doing this exact thing. So it'll get worked out. Most of these contract problems do get worked out. Every once in a while you'll find Trent Williams who holds out a whole season and gets traded for a 2 and ends up playing as good as ever on his way to the Hall of Fame.
John McClain is with us here on Raider Nation Radio 920. Sticking with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield did not get a contract extension. They say he's not going to, negotiate until this season plays out. How do you see that? Is that going to be a problem for Tampa Bay moving forward? Because now he could potentially hit free agency.
Well, he's not going to hit free agency because they would franchise him.
Okay.
And the franchise tag would be cheaper than he wants. And so Mayfield has always seemed to play best when he feels like he's being done wrong. Disrespect from the media, disrespect from the fans, going back to college. And that means he may come out and have one of his best seasons. He has been a tremendous addition to the Buccaneers after bouncing around like a pinball, done a great job replacing Tom Brady. I heard a thing today, them picking the Buccaneers for last in that division, and I just don't see it. And I think Mayfield will have that chip on his shoulder, as Johnny Manziel told me before the draft in 2014, that if I don't get the first round, that chip on my shoulder is going to go from a Frito to a Dorito.
Well, we all know what happened with Johnny Manziel and his NFL career, but there was that. He was a first-round pick, though, so I guess he was satisfied by that. Again, John McClain is with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920. Speaking of the Cowboys, it's been really quiet around the Cowboys, and Jerry had his State of the Union today. He started talking to the media. What are your expectations for those Cowboys this year since it's been so quiet?
I think the Cowboys will win the NFC East. And their offense is great. Their defense has got to be improved because it can't be much worse than it was. I tell people the Cowboys and the Texans should win their divisions. And if you could combine the Cowboys offense with the Texans defense, you could cancel the Super Bowl right now because they would win it. And they play in the fourth game of the season here at Reliant Stadium. But I think Dallas is going to be good. You know, that offense is loaded. The key is Prescott's got to stay healthy. And then when they do get in the playoffs, they can't be choking and making bad decisions like Dak did the last time they were in. Mike McCarthy made a couple of boneheaded decisions where it was like he was gagging too. You can't have that. And the Cowboys, I love Dak's training camp T-shirt showing the date of the last Super Bowl in '96 after the '95 season.
Again, well, we'll see what they do. That defense has got to be a lot better, like you mentioned. They obviously have some really good additions. But speaking of the Texans, John, and I've been having a lot of these conversations nationally, and I keep saying C.J. Stroud's a really good quarterback, but everyone keeps pressing me. Well, he's got to show it, or they're not going to pay him. John, there's no way that they don't pay him, right?
No, he'll get paid. He should get paid next season. He doesn't deserve to be paid this season unless they could get him for a good deal. You know, Stroud's problem is he has had a poor offensive line every year he's been in the NFL. Last year he did not have a running game, and now he should have a running game. And they've added 4 new offensive linemen who are good run blockers, 2 first and fourth round picks, and 2 veteran free agents. So that should help him. And he has played well. Remember, he's won 3 playoff games the last 3 seasons, and I think there's only one other quarterback who can say that. Now, he's fortunate to have a great defense, and if he gets a really good running game, doesn't even have to be great. It's going to make him a better quarterback, and we'll find out really soon because they open here against the Bills and the Bengals, then they go to Indy, then they come back here against the Cowboys. So we're going to know a whole lot about Texans in the first 4 games.
Is it hurting C.J. Stroud that Texas defense is as good as it is, and they're saying that they're winning despite him as opposed to because of him?
He says all the right things. He does all the right things. I think last year he was inconsistent because, number one, no running game. The top rusher, Joe Mixon, never played. And then he is missing receivers. Nico Collins hadn't had a full season since he's been in the NFL. Tank Dell missed the entire season. And they didn't have anybody replace Stephon Diggs, who they dumped after 1 season. But the key was Stroud. He is a cool customer. Everybody likes him. Everybody respects him. And it should help him that he's in the second year with a coordinator, Nick Caley, who was a first-time coordinator and first-time play caller. And he came in and put so much on Stroud's plate. There were times when they got to the line of scrimmage and Stroud's supposed to be looking over the defense, making the calls for the offensive line. Boom! Clock expires. They don't have that excuse anymore.
John McClain is with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And that's a roughness. Just had a couple more.
Let me ask you something.
Okay.
I am just blown away that all these people that think it's news that Kirk Cousins is going to start. They've never deviated from that. I've seen some national media wondering, well, why would they not start Mendoza and predicting that?
Right.
And I'm like, they've said it from the get-go. Why did they want Kirk Cousins? Well, one reason, Clint Kubiak knew him really well from Minnesota. Tom Brady sat his first year. It didn't turn out too shabby. There is no need to rush Fernando Mendoza, and I don't think Mark Davis is the type that would tell him to do that. And so everything is happening exactly the way they said it was, but some people seem surprised.
Yeah,
Why is that?
That's a great question. I was actually going to ask you what you thought about Clint Kubiak just coming out and being very, as a matter of fact, and like you said, sticking to what he's already alluded to, saying that Kirk Cousins was a starting quarterback. I don't think it's a bad thing, but there's so many that think that they're slowing down the growth of Fernando if he's not out there day one.
Boy, I hope it's not people I respect because I think that's ridiculous. You look at Aaron Rodgers, Tony Romo, and, of course, Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes didn't start, played 1 game as a rookie. There's nothing wrong with sitting and watching and learning, especially behind a veteran who wants to help you. And Kirk Cousins has more motivation. He wants to win. He wants to get another contract so he can eventually become, if past Matthew Stafford, as the most money earned in NFL history. And Cousins is a good guy. And plus, they need to add people around him. It wouldn't help if they get in there and the offensive line is terrible and they can't protect him. At some point, the odds are, some point, because it's hard to anybody to play 17 games anymore, he'll get a chance. And I'm fired up. And let me ask you this. Second preseason game is here against the Texans. Do you think they would be more inclined to play him more in the first game or the second game or the third one?
I think he'll probably play a lot in the third one for sure, but definitely get some burn in the second one. The second one now, don't they treat that as like the third preseason game that used to be the dress rehearsal?
Yeah, they have, but sometimes teams are just barely playing their starters. Tell Clint that not only is mom, dad, all of his relatives down here, and all his fans going to be mad at him if he doesn't play Mendoza. We want to see Fernando.
I will. I'll pass that on. John, we'll be out there bright and early tomorrow, 7:30 in the morning. So as soon as I see him, I'll pass that message along. I'm sure he'll get a good laugh. You know, it's not too often that he laughs unless we're talking about football. So,
well, he's kind of like his dad. And if Clint turns out to be a head coach like his dad, Raiders fans will be happy for a long time.
I really do feel like he's going to be good. And obviously we don't know, John, until we see it. But it feels like he has an opportunity, him and Fernando, to really grow together as a nice 1-2 punch. And the Raiders could be set up for a while if that works out the way I think it's going to work out.
I think one of the maybe the best free agent signing in the NFL during the offseason was the center. I don't care if you overpay him. Linderbaum is worth whatever they paid him. They had it to spend, and you have tied down that position, which is so important for a rookie quarterback. I just think it was a great move. Cousins, of course, will like it too, but mainly for a quarterback who is learning, I think it's tremendous. I think the Raiders got a good deal going on. Mark Davis ought to be so happy with what he's been able to put together there.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. And as he told me, you know, we've won the offseason before. Now it's time to win in the regular season, which obviously everyone wants to see the Raiders do that. Well, John, we'll close out with this. It's another training camp. You've been covering the league for many, many years. You talk about how proud you are all the time. How does it feel to be entering another training camp and another regular season?
It's my 50th, and I'm as excited for the 50th as I was the first, although the first in 1977, I was nervous as hell. It was only my second year at the Houston Chronicle when I got sent to it back when they played 6 preseason games, and training camp was 2 months long. But I was so nervous back then. Dan Pastorini, their starting quarterback, who had had a really bad off-season off the field and not talked to the media. The bosses said, do not come back without an interview with Pastorini. Turned out he gave me his first interview. It was great. And Dan and I have become friends. We're working on this documentary about his life on and off the field, including his season with the Raiders. And I've told him I never would have been able to cover the Oilers if you hadn't given me the time and respect to do that story. Of course, he doesn't remember it, but it helped my career. And kind of after that, I started feeling more at ease. But now I'm excited. Nothing worse than covering a team year after year that's terrible. And the Oilers were terrible from 81 through 86. And the highlight of the season was the draft. But now with the Texans, people are pumped just like they are with the Cowboys. We got a lot of people pumped about football here. The Aggies, the Longhorns, the Red Raiders, University of Houston coming off a 10-3 season. This is a football state, and we're excited about the start of training camp, as the Raiders should be too.
Absolutely. I know that's right. And I just hope that I'm able to tell that story one day as well, about the day I was nervous as hell, and all of a sudden 50 years later I'm still covering the league, and we're flying high and we're having a good time. I'm hoping I get to tell that story one day, John. I really admire it.
Hey, you usually ask me what I'm doing. Let me tell you something. Last week, the Texans asked me if I'd write a personal remembrance column about Janice McNair, their owner who died And so I did, and it's on HoustonTexans.com, and I'm very proud of it, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And so any of your listeners would be interested in reading about Janice McNair and what a wonderful woman she was, I'd be honored if they do.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to retweet that, send that out there as well so everyone has an opportunity to put their eyes on it. John, great stuff as always. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
Q, I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Great stuff right there, as always. John McClain, the General, the Hall of Famer, with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And, yeah, man, I can't wait till there's I can wait because it's going to it means I'm just getting older. But there'll be a time where I can say that I've been covering the league, hopefully for as many moons as John McClain has. And that's when you know that it's everything has been smooth sailing. And like he said, he's as pumped up for year 50 as he was for year number 1. And that's exactly how it should be. Many thanks to John for his time this afternoon. We got Ted Nguyen from The Athletic coming up at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock, but we do want to hear from you next. 702-365-9200. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
It's just really important that come game one that our players are doing what they do best on game day. So identifying their strengths and putting them in position to make plays on game day. So we're not, we're not asking guys to do something that they can't do really well. So that's how we identify those strengths is really important to us as coaches.
You're listening to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Brought to you by Meineke, doing car care right.
Clint Kubiak talking about identifying strengths ahead of game day, obviously ahead of the season. That's on them. That's even something that he talked about before they added a veteran quarterback. Remember, I don't want the quarterback to coach up the young player. I don't want him to be his mentor. I want the young player to learn through osmosis. The coaches are the coaches. Don't need the veteran quarterback, in this case Kirk Cousins, to be the coach. All he needs to do is go and be that veteran quarterback, go out there and lead, and Fernando Mendoza can learn, again, through osmosis, learning by observation, learning by asking questions on his own, right, just kind of being that guy. And so he's been very, as a matter of fact, when it comes to coaches and identifying strengths and doing their job to set the players up and to put themselves in the best position possible. So let's say Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. We got 10 Nguyen from The Athletic coming up in just a few minutes, but let's go out to the phone lines real quick and talk to the Mac. The Mac from way back. Raider Mac, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
What's up, Q? Man, y'all killing me. Y'all killing me with this starting, about Mendoza not starting. Here's my problem with that. You guys don't have no facts that show. And I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying Jameis Winston, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, all those guys that started. Everybody ain't going to hit. You can go back to in the 70s when Terry Bradshaw started and quarterbacks didn't sat more than they do now. My biggest thing with us is that if you're going to go, if you're going to start, if you got a franchise quarterback, yeah, it's okay to sit up if he was behind. This is my personal opinion about what's his name? I just don't think he's the same. If he was 10 years younger, he would have been okay. But right now, he's coming off of Achilles tear. He didn't look good at all. So I don't understand why you can't start Fernando Mendoza. And I heard last week somebody called in and said, well, Brady and all those guys are experts. Oh, yeah, I understand that, but Brady played. He never managed anybody. So here's the thing. If you're going to lose or you're going to win, get the kid in there now and get it over with. Because week 4, week 5, whatever it is, that's not going to help you. It's too late then to me. You're gonna have to wait another year to really evaluate if you wait till game 10 or whatever, because you're not going to have a full season. So my thing, evaluate him now, let him do. And if he's not the person we thought he is, then we got the draft coming up again, and get another quarterback. Get it right to me. Don't just be scared. That's the problem with our franchise. We don't take chances. We finally took a chance and got a quarterback because it was there. But Q, I just, and I might be the minority in this, but you got to start Fernando. He's looking and for Q, for Clint to come out and say that you giving the Kirk Cousins a starter, I think that's unfair. I think you should let it play out, and then you say something like that. Now you got Fernando looking like, okay, he needs to start. So it's just a lot of stuff I wouldn't do, and taking them.
All right, I got you. We're up against the end of the hour, but the one thing I'll say is Clint Kubiak said that Kirk Cousins is the starter tomorrow, right? And he expects Fernando to push Kirk, and he expects Aiden to push Kirk. And so I don't think that anything is set in stone. I don't think he said, and I was there, I maybe I misheard him. I never heard him say Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter all season long. I never heard him say Kirk Cousins can't be replaced. I never heard him say Fernando Mendoza, Aiden O'Connell, or other don't have a chance to play. I heard him say Kirk Cousins has earned the right to start tomorrow, and he expects that Fernando and Aiden will push him. Anything is possible. I think the best idea here is not set in stone on Kirk has to start or Fernando has to start. The best guy for the job, the guy that will put the Raiders in the best position to win ball games, is who should start. And I think that that's what the Raiders are feeling like as well. But, again, like Kirk Morrison brought up earlier, it will reveal itself. Hour number 3 is on the way. Ted Nguyen joins the show. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
Kirk, in terms of his mobility and where he is at this stage of his career, he feels kind of the healthiest that he's felt in a long time. At his age, in a kind of like a catastrophic injury like that, maybe there's some mental stuff that goes on as well as some physical stuff. So kind of this new reset with a coach that he has familiarity with, being in a scheme that he has familiarity with. I think he feels really confident about the way that he fits in on this team. And I think that could also help with how he kind of feels physically and where he is confidence-wise with his body.
Right now, we're doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke, doing car care right.
And as we kick off hour number 3 of the show, we come into the sounds of our good friend Sam Warren from The Athletic talking about Kirk Cousins and his health as part of the Just Win podcast with Ted Nguyen and Marshall Newhouse, and talking about Kirk Cousins and this newfound energy with obviously Clint Kubiak, who he's had a lot of success with there in Minnesota. And today at the press conference, not a big surprise by me, Clint Kubiak said that starting tomorrow, Kirk Cousins will be the starting quarterback, but that doesn't mean that a guy like Fernando Mendoza, Aiden O'Connell, or other could unseat him. But starting tomorrow, because he's earned it, he's played some really good football, Kirk Cousins is a starting quarterback. It's Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And Ted Nguyen from The Athletic does join us now here on the show, kicking off hour number 3. And Ted, thanks so much for your time. And Sam was on your guys' show talking about Kirk Cousins. You heard Clint Kubiak today say that Kirk Cousins is the guy. Do you think that was the right decision? Do you think he's earned it, as Clint Kubiak said he did?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that he's earned it through OTAs. I think career-wise, he's always been a consummate professional as far as preparing right, doing the right things, running the offense the way the coach wants it to be ran. And, obviously he's had some really, really good years in NFL. So, and I'm sure Fernando Mendoza, even though he had some highs, and, I'm sure he had some lows during OTAs too, where he's struggling to pick up the volume of offense, trying to learn how to play under center. And I'm sure Kirk is just running the offense at a much smoother pace than Mendoza is right now. And it all just kind of fits into the whole thing that the Raiders on all levels of their organization have been talking about, as far as just not rushing a rookie quarterback into a starting situation too soon.
Do you think that the Raiders should be in a rush to get Fernando Mendoza out there and let him take some of the lumps early on in the process?
I don't think they should be. I mean, I think one thing that they have to be able to be sure about is, do they have the baseline offense to support Fernando Mendoza? Like, is the run game going to be strong enough to where you don't have to get into a bunch of third and long situations too much? Is the offensive line improved enough? I mean, Linderbaum is really the only big signing, big addition they've made on offensive line, so they really don't know if the line is going to be that much better at pass protection. Like, I would not want to put a rookie quarterback behind the offensive line that the Raiders had last year, or the pass protection the Raiders had last year. So I think the right approach is to wait and see. And, you want to see how Mendoza is handling everything internally in practice.
and you want to see that you have the right support system out there on the field every Sunday.
Ted Nguyen from The Athletic is with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. Your podcast out right now, Just Win Podcast. The biggest questions facing the Raiders at training camp. We've been talking about competition in camp starting tomorrow. What's the biggest training camp battle that you're looking at right now for the Silver and Black?
I think at guard, at both guard positions, obviously, extremely important. I think, DJ Glaze pretty much has the right tackle position solidified, even though I think there should be some competition. Like he really needs to bounce back, but it seems like he's kind of solidified a spot there. So just the two guard positions, like who's going to win out? Spencer Burford obviously has experience in this offense. He knows ins and outs of it, so he has a bit of a leg up from a mental perspective. Jack and Powers Johnson, extremely physically gifted and just a physical mauler, but he's struggled to stay healthy. Zune, I think, he's a guy that can play up and down the line. Can he find a spot there? So it'll be interesting. And Caleb Rogers, I don't want to forget to mention him too. So to me, that's going to be a really interesting battle. I also think cornerback 2 is going to be an interesting battle between Darian Porter, Hezekiah Massis, and maybe Gerard McCoy if he's healthy enough. We'll see who wins that battle. I think if McCoy's healthy, I think he very clearly should be your cornerback too.
Going back to the offensive line real quick, and this is something Lincoln Kennedy always points out to me, that he thought that the Raiders last year just did a disservice to DJ Glaze by lining Geno Smith up in the shotgun or the pistol all the time. It didn't help Glaze just because of his footwork, and he used to let defenders cross his face. You do film study. What did you see was really Glaze's issues, why he seemed like he regressed last year?
I think some of it had to do with just, like Lincoln Kennedy said, just being in too many bad situations. Like playing offensive tackle is hard enough, but when you're in situations where you have to pass the ball all the time, it's just tough on you. And I think some of his technique regressed. He just did not seem like a confident player. And he, being able to set your base, set the foundation to where you're in a strong position to be able to pass block and handle inside rushes, to handle bull rushes. It just seemed like he never was able to do that. It just seemed like he was just too light on his feet, not really able to get balance, and he got pushed back too much for a player that I think could be a lot more powerful. So I think with more confidence, just more confidence in knowing what you're doing, more confidence in the scheme putting you in better positions, I think all those things could help, but he has to make those improvements from a technique standpoint, and from a mental standpoint to where, we can see him becoming a better player and developing into a better player.
Your podcast partner is Marshall Newhouse. He was a Raider offensive lineman, longtime NFL offensive lineman, won a Super Bowl ring with the Giants. How much of it do you think was coaching, and it just was not good coaching from the Raiders, obviously Brendan Carroll last year?
Yeah, I think that's a huge component of it. I think, anytime you have a really young player, DJ Glaze was in his second year last year, just not having the proper coaching, not being able to hone in his technique, not being able to trust the guys around him. I think that hurt him for sure. So I hope that it's not so much of an issue that he can't bounce back this year, but it's hard not to say coaching, wasn't a huge detriment last year.
Ted Nguyen from The Athletic is with us here on Radio 920. One camp battle that I mentioned was Dante Thornton Jr. and Malik Benson, and really because Benson has special teams abilities. What do you see from that wide receiver position in the competition that they could have in that room?
Yeah, I wasn't out there in OTAs, but supposedly Benson made a ton of plays, and he made a lot of connection or established a strong connection with Fernando Mendoza. So that will definitely help your cause as far as getting that spot over Dante Thornton. Thornton does have a year of experience. He is a physical freak as far as his height, weight, speed ratio, and we saw a little bit of that last year, but he was just so far behind from a technical perspective. And as we mentioned, the coaching probably didn't help too much. So we'll see how he develops in this year. We'll see that in the preseason. We'll hear about that in training camp. I'm curious to see where he's at. But I think, hearing about Malik Benson making some plays is encouraging. And anytime you have competition, that's going to help you out.
Speaking of physicality, Jack Bech, the second-round pick out of TCU, didn't really get too much time on the grass last year, his rookie year. Didn't see a lot from him in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, but there's no pads and there's no chance to be physical. Do you feel like Jack Bech could show everyone now what he could be once training camp really opens up?
I think so. I just think he fits way better in this offense where you're going to use a lot of heavy personnel. They know how to use receivers with kind of his versatility as a run blocker, just his physicality on crossers, his ability to run after the catch. So I think this system just fits him a lot better than it did last year. So I think if he gets a chance, if he's able to learn and hone in on the things they ask him to do, I don't think he's a guy that you want to just line out there and play X or Z. I think he's a guy that really needs to learn a multitude of things, and it could be tougher from a mental perspective to learn all those things. But if he does, I think he can carve out a nice role in this offense.
Speaking of this offense and the scheme, is this a year that we finally see what Michael Mayer could do, or do you feel like it's going to be kind of the same old when it comes to Big Mike?
I think this is his best shot for sure. I mean, I think this is an offensive coordinator that Clint Kubiak that really knows how to use tight ends and heavy bodies. And last year they did try to do a lot of 12 personnel, but it just was so ineffective because they couldn't run the ball. And, I just felt like the targets and the plays drawn up for the tight ends were so inconsistent. So I think this is the best shot for sure. I mean, I think, Brock Bowers is going to help take some attention away. I think Clint Kubiak is going to get him opportunities. So it's up to him to be able to stay healthy. Obviously, there's some injury luck involved there too, but he needs to be able to stay on the field and just prove that he can be a plus starter at tight end.
Ted Nguyen for The Athletic is with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And, Ted, as you can imagine, there's a lot of folks that are texting in and asking about, Vita Vea and how he fits with the Raiders, if, in fact, he does. I know he requested the trade from Tampa Bay. I just want to know, in your perspective, you do the film study, do you think with what the Raiders have building right now, the characteristics, the culture that Clint Kubiak is trying to establish, Robbie Leonard as a new DC, he would be a good fit at his age at 31 to give up some draft capital and a contract extension too for what they're trying to build right now?
I mean, I think from a schematic standpoint, it makes all the sense in the world because, we think Robbie Leonard wants to run kind of a modern defense playing those light boxes. And when you play light boxes, you really need strong defensive tackles. And the Raiders have a very unproven group at defensive tackle. They don't have a ton of beef. And you add Vita Vea in there, and it all of a sudden makes your run defense a lot stouter. He's one of the best run defenders in the league. So I think from a schematic standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. The age is a concern because the Raiders have made a concerted effort to focus on getting younger. All the guys they've brought in and signed have been 27 years old or younger, except for Teron Johnson, who they traded for. But to me, I think the nose tackle position, those guys usually age a little bit more gracefully than other players. So I think that's the question that the Raiders have to ask themselves is like, how many strong years does he have left? Because this is a team that's rebuilding. I don't know if they believe that this is the year where they're going to go and be a playoff contender right away. And he's 31 years old, so he'll be 32 next year. You're going to have to give up draft compensation to get him. I don't think it'll be a first-round pick or anything, but it still will be some valuable picks. So, and you have to pay him too. Right. So I think those things you have to consider. But from a schematic standpoint, it makes sense. So it just depends on what the Raiders believe as far as how much you can get from Vita Vea at his age. So we'll see what happens.
Ted Nguyen from The Athletic with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And we'll have to see what happens. He made the request from Tampa Bay to be traded because, well, he's looking for that contract extension and it has not gone the way that he wants it to. So we'll see where he ends up, if he ends up anywhere, or if things work itself out there in Tampa Bay. Ted, great stuff as always, my man. What are you working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, I just wrote an article where I polled and talked to a bunch of defensive coordinators around the league about who they think are the top 10 offensive play callers in the league are. And Clint Kubiak made the list. So that'll be out tomorrow on The Athletic. So check that out.
Boom. We'll definitely take a look at that. Thanks so much for your time as always, Ted. We made it. It's training camp time. That means football's back. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Ted Nguyen from The Athletic right there, talking all things Raiders, training camp, biggest questions facing the Silver and Black, and, of course, just his quick thoughts on Vita Vea. And, again, don't have to sweat the fact that he requested a trade. We know that happened, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm personally in the belief that Tampa Bay is going to figure out a way to make that work. I know that Todd Bowles has been very adamant that he needs that guy to make his defense goes, and this is a big season for Todd Bowles. If they don't make things happen after the late season collapse that they had last year, I can see Todd Bowles out at the end of the season. So he probably needs to have all his playmakers on both sides of the ball ready to go. They already got a situation with Baker. I'm sure they don't want that same situation with Vita, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Many thanks to Ted for his time this afternoon. We do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. We've been talking about training camp being here. Practice starts tomorrow, bright and early, 7:30 in the morning. What is the camp competition that you are most intrigued by, and why? Let's see, on this text line, let's see, Jason said, Raider J from Monterey, as a matter of fact, said, unnecessary roughness Q. Folks keep saying Kirk was no good last season. I disagree. If you watch the Netflix documentary series, Quarterback Season 2, Kirk was playing at a high level until he injures his arm. That injury is fully healed. He'll still perform at a high level. Let's see what he can do getting back together with Clint. That's Raider J from Monterey. I feel like he wasn't very good. Kirk Cousins wasn't very good, not last year, but the year before, when he was actually the first year removed from his torn Achilles. I thought last year he did a lot better until, like you said, until an injury happened. But I think that right now, from what I've seen, just with my two eyes, he looks about as healthy as he's going to be. He looks really good. He's mobile. His arm, the strength looks like it's there. And, again, it's just a small sample size. It was OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and they obviously show you what they want you to see. But he looked the part as far as I was concerned. And again, the should Cousins start, should Mendoza start, that debate's going to go on forever. It's just one of those things that everyone's got an opinion on it. I understand it. I respect it. There's a lot of excitement and hype around Fernando Mendoza. But as Kirk Morrison pointed out at 3 o'clock when he joined the show, there are so many other elements of this team besides just the quarterback and who's playing. There's so much, and that's why I'm not in a rush to see Fernando Mendoza out there, because I know that this team has some heavy lifting that they've got to do. They've got to figure out the offensive line. They've got to figure out who's going to be the starting wide receivers. They got to figure out who's going to be the starting cornerbacks. They got to figure out who's going to be the starting safeties. They're going to have to, you know what I mean? They've got so much that they've got to figure out. You know, what's the depth chart look like? There is so much that they've got to put together, and they don't have a long time to do it, right? John McClain talked about when, he was covering the league and training camp was 2 months long. That ain't the case here, right? I mean, training camp starts tomorrow, really. The first practice, July 29th. The third preseason game, the final preseason game is August 27th. That's literally 1 month. They're going to, go and work out the 53-man roster. They'll put the practice squad together, and then, boom, they'll be ready to go, right? It'll be early September. They'll be ready to rock and roll, and we'll be talking about the Miami Dolphins headed to Allegiant Stadium. So there's not a lot of time to get this figured out, and they don't have multiple practices, the two-a-days, the multiple padded practices. It's very limited on what they can do. So there's so much heavy lifting they got to do. It's more than just the Las Vegas Mendozas or the, Fernando Raiders. It's more than that. Yes, he's a key cog. He is the franchise quarterback. I get it. But there's got so much. Oh, and by the way, besides all that, you're also breaking in a brand new head coach. Never been a head coach in his NFL career. Right? So he's also got to figure things. Oh, and by the way, another storyline. Rob Leonard, brand new defensive coordinator. Never been a defensive coordinator in his NFL career. Defensive line coach, absolutely. But in linebacker coach, absolutely. Defensive coordinator, nah, not so much. So that's another thing that they've got to get worked out. There's a lot of stuff that's got to come together outside of just Fernando Mendoza or Kirk Cousins starting an NFL game. So, again, that's why I'm not in a hurry, and I'm very patient with whatever decision the Raiders decide to make when it comes to that QB position, because I know, again, they're playing the long game. Nobody wants to hear the long game, but that's exactly what they're doing. 702-365-9200. Let's go out to the phone lines, talk to our guy, Snake Man. What's on your mind? Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Q? A couple things. I'm listening to John McClain. Am I correct when he said that Mark Davis said that they had won the offseason before? Did he say that to you?
No, he didn't say that. Mark Davis told me that.
Right, that's what I mean. But
yeah.
When exactly have the Raiders won the offseason in Mark Davis's tenure? Because as far as I can tell, they've never won the offseason. They have nothing but disastrous off seasons. This offseason has been the best offseason I can recall in 20-something years. But as far as Mark Davis's tenure, they've never won the offseason.
Well, I think there's been some positivity. Hold on. Let me respond. I think there's been some positivity. There's been some excitement about the team heading into the season because it felt like it was headed in the right direction, even though it turned out not to be.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. The results are what speak. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. A couple things. I don't know if you got my text regarding making it the case now for Vita Vea, because letting it digest for a night and not being super spontaneous on it, because, we're all reactionary when it comes to these kind of rumors and whatnot. But could it be possible that John Spytek is playing some crazy chess here? The Raiders did not draft a defensive tackle until the 7th round. With the release of Laki Tassi last night late as well. Also, possibly, does that mean that maybe Spytek just happened to maybe have some inside information that maybe Vita Vea was potentially going to be available for maybe a trade or something going on there? If that's the case, the Raiders, number one, they owe this to Max Crosby to help Max out as much as possible. Not just talking on the edges with the drafting, of Splash Crawford and all that, and some of the other additions they've made in Kwity Paye. But having that nose tackle, that guy in the middle, is important. Now, again, he's 31 years old. Will he demand the salary that a Dexter Lawrence, who's 28, would? I don't think so. He's certainly not going to demand the kind of money that Jalen Carter got. However, the new 30, the 30 is the new 25. I'm in the opinion that modern athletes are much better conditioned than their predecessors, maybe even 10 years ago. If one recalls, Will Warfork for the Patriots played very well up until he was about 34 years old. In fact, made the Pro Bowl as an All-Pro in 2012, I believe, at the age of 30, 31 himself. So that said, I feel like the Raiders, they would have Vita Vea under contract if they give an extension, whatever, probably for 25, maybe in the $30 million range. They'd still have Genti and Mendoza on their rookie contracts, and I believe Max is still signed for a few more years as well. So it's not like the Raiders can't afford to, and I don't think Vita Vea is washed up at all. He's going to be in there for rundowns, and if they could stop the run, that just sets up the defense for more success down the road. Thoughts on that? I'll let you go.
Hey, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the health of Vita Vea. I mean, 17 games he played last season. He played all of them. He did a hell of a job. He had 4.5 sacks, like you said. He stops the run. He's definitely an absolute dog. My only pushback on anything has been the fact that it hasn't seemed like that's been the Raiders' MO this offseason. And if I'm incorrect, please, tell me. It seems like that they've been very satisfied with going through the process of bringing up the young guy, letting them build, and go from there. That's just what it's felt like to me. Now, maybe they look at Vita and say, you know what, that's that one piece. To your point, he knows the Buccaneers organization. He being John Spytek knows the Buccaneers organization. Maybe he had a good idea that Vita was going to be available, and he decided, all right, we don't really like the defensive tackles or nose tackles in the draft. We're going to wait and see if this guy becomes available because there's a good chance he gets out of town, and then we'll jump on him. That very well could. I can't jump into the mind of John Spytek and tell you that that's what he's thinking. All I can say is from every transaction we've seen this offseason, it hasn't seemed like they're trying to do any shortcuts. They don't look like they're trying to go out and get AB. They don't look like they're trying to go out and get Devontae Adams. And I know that's not the same because, Vita's 31 years old and, he's not a high-profile wide receiver. But they're not going out there trying to get Christian Wilkins, right? Who they got? They got the guys that they really needed. Tyler Linderbaum was a need, right? A big-time need. And you could say Vita is as well. I just don't know if that's how they view, Robbie Leonard, how they view him at this stage of the game. But, depending on what the price is, depending on what the price of doing business, because it's not just giving them a contract, it's also giving them draft capital. And how much draft capital are you willing to give up at this stage of the game, knowing that you're still going to need it next year? Those are the two questions that I don't have the answer for at this stage of the game. I wish I did, but I don't. So we'll see how it all plays out. But obviously, with the report out that he wants to go, come back west, either play in Cali or with the Raiders, obviously that's going to definitely spark up the interest of the Silver and Black. So we'll see how it all plays out, but thanks for the call. Really good stuff. Let's get another one in. Let's go get our guy Shields up. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q. How you doing, man? Thanks for taking my call.
Sir.
Excuse me. Gloss over Vita Vea real quick. I said something yesterday. I'll be quick. Give him Tampa a 3 and a 5. We can absorb his contract. He's only due, I think, 2.5 next year, and of course he's looking for an extension. We have a cap freed up next year of $60 million. When you look at our free agents, they're not like, coming at you like, oh yeah, we got to sign this guy, we got to sign that guy. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance for a couple years with Vita, but I want to get back to the discussion about Kirk Cousins starting, and with your guest, I forget his name, man. He's a longtime dude you've been with, John McClain.
Oh yeah, McClain. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, listen, I was all on board, man. I was all on board with, of course, Mendoza starting week 1. I was having no other outside noise, and I think it's because RaiderNation's been craving that quarterback. Mm-hmm. That rookie quarterback, that draft pick for so long, dude, that we had blinders on. So I'll concede the fact that, yeah, correct, Kirk Cousins should start, and let's see what happens. He's a free agent next year. The only thing with that is that if Mendoza has to come in, it's either, to me, 2 points. One, that we're not doing good, which means is we're losing, or 2, Kirk Cousins gets hurt. I don't see any other way of Mendoza coming in. So, to me, that's not a good outlook, man. Again, we could be losing, and they say, okay, let's get the kid in there and this and that and this. So those two things kind of worry me with Mendoza finally getting the call up to start. Because you saw Bledsoe went down, this person went down. When you look at all these other players that, Mahomes and everything else, all these guys started because something else bad happened or something else. And that's why, as far as wide receiver, the wide receiver room, that's the position group that I'm looking at right now. The offensive line I've talked about many times, but the wide receiver group, Naylor, the free agent, if you look at all these young guys, man, Besh, Dante Thornton, to me, it's a wide open competition, man. And Trey Tucker, think about it. Q, he's only 25 years old. So he's got a long way ahead of him, man. So I'm looking at the wide receiver room. I'm down with Kirk Cousins, but I hope, whatever happens for Mendoza to come in, it's not catastrophe. Okay, I don't know if, you could think about that or whoever could comment on that, but that's what I got, man. Shields up, brother. Sorry to take your time.
All good, man. Really good call. It's always great to hear from you. Shields up. Couple things real quick. Yeah, Vita Vea's contract. He's in the last year of a $17 million deal. The $2 million that you're talking about next year, that's actually a void year. So he'll be a free agent next year. So that's it's on the contract, but it's not really on the contract. That's just how they set up the contract to make it work. He has nothing guaranteed on his contract right now, which is why he wants that contract extension. Bill Barnwell has assumed and estimated that it's going to be about $47 million combined over the next couple of years, which is something similar to what Dexter Lawrence got. And obviously, you saw Jalen Carter get a massive deal. He's not going to get that. But, you just know that he's trying to get obviously more than what he's received. And, the Raiders, they could make it work for sure if they so choose to. It just depends on where they see their team, where they see their defense, how they see him fitting in the roster, not just this year, but for the next couple of years, and how much draft capital are you going to have to give up that is very valuable to John Spytek, that he's mentioned before is very valuable, to end up acquiring that player. So that's something that you have to think about as well. But as far as just a really good player, you put him on the defensive line along with Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz and Kwity Paye and the guys that they have in the mix, and obviously part of the rotation that they already have. That's a guy that you feel really good about moving forward. But again, it's got to be what John Spytek and company, how they view this team and how they view this defense at this stage of the game. As far as the wide receivers go, remember, Trey Tucker, last year of his deal. Michael Mayer, last year of his deal. Aiden O'Connell, last year of his deal. All right, there's a handful of guys that are in the last year of their deal that are going to be free agents next year. So, you want to see what they can do. Can Trey Tucker carve out a role this year and beyond? Does Speedy Naylor take over that role from Trey Tucker, right? What is Dante Thornton Jr. going to do? How much is Malik Benson going to impact that? What's Jack Besh going to do? Like, they've got guys. We just don't know what those guys' exact roles are at this stage of the game, which makes it so intriguing. But a really good call, man, and they'll start to answer some of those questions coming up tomorrow with their first practice, and we'll be out there at 7:30 a.m. Keep that feedback coming, 702-365-9200. That's the text line and the phone line. We'll get to your calls. We'll get to your texts. And we've got another performance that we need to flush. We'll do it next here on RaiderNation Radio 920.
Doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke. Doing car care right.
It's time to flush it. Brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing.
You can always count on Major League Baseball to have a bad performance that needs to be flushed. And, of course, today's flushing and every day's flushing is brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing, 702-355-3938. Online, moonlightplumbing.vegas. I always say that's the easiest way to get a hold of them if you need. And even if you don't need right now, just make sure you hold on to that website, moonlightplumbing.vegas. Affordable, dependable plumbing professionals serving Las Vegas since 2016. They mean business. No problem is too big or too small for Moonlight. They are military and first responder discounts available. And, of course, they are also, operated, veteran operated and owned as well. And so we definitely appreciate them. But, yeah, we got to go to the world of Major League Baseball. And one of the worst teams in baseball, the New York Mets, surprisingly beat the brakes off one of the best teams in baseball, in the Atlanta Braves, 14-3. You got to flush that Braves performance. For the Mets, Francisco Lindor homered twice and tripled off the top of the fence, driving in 6 runs as the Mets pulled away for a 14-3 victory over the Braves. This came on Monday night. Marcus Semien, he was a member of the A's at one point, hit a long 2-run homer that snapped a 3-3 tie in the 6th. Tyrone Taylor extended his tear at the plate with a 3-run drive in the 7th as the last place Mets, 45-62 overall, matched a season high with 19 hits and hammered a first-place opponent for the second consecutive day. And this is the deal. As I mentioned, at one point the game was 3-3. Braves starter Martin Perez went 5 innings, giving up 8 hits and 3 earned runs, which isn't bad, right? 8 hits is a little bit high, but only 3 earned runs, so not bad. Their first up out of the bullpen, he was the problem. He gave up 10 hits and 11 earned runs, gave up 3 home runs, and walked 5 in 2 2/3 innings, and that ballooned his overall ERA up to 21.32. Yeah, that's bad business right there. Now, the funny thing about this is, in baseball, I always say, well, the good thing is you can flush it one day and then not worry about it the next day because, well, there's so many games that are being played that you could just literally flush it and say, all right, well, that was a bad day at the office, and we'll get back to winning ways. And the Braves will probably do that because they're a really good team. The problem is they're not going to do that today. They were supposed to do that today. As a matter of fact, Braves pitcher Chris Sale was going to be on the mound, so I felt like that they were going to really get back to their winning ways, but bad weather. So the weather said, you know what? Not only was that performance so bad on Monday, we're going to let you sit and think about it one more day. So they're going to play a doubleheader on tomorrow, and for the Braves, they hope to get back to winning ways. And for one day, the Mets had themselves a moment. But 14-3. They gave up all those hits. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? 3 home runs, walked 5 in 2 2/3 innings, 10 hits, 11 earned runs. That was ridiculous. Connor Thomas, I don't know how long he's going to be for the majors. Normally when you have outings like that and your ERA gets up to 21.32, you find your way onto the minors, or they send you down to the minors to at least to try to get right before you head back up. So something to pay attention to, for that squad and see if they can maybe replace him with someone else. But that was a really, really bad performance for the Braves, and the Mets, at least they get another day to feel good about themselves because they're a really bad team. But I definitely wanted to flush that Braves performance, and clearly the Braves wanted to as well. So let's go ahead and give them one more royal flush. Again, that flushing brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing Vegas. From sun up till moonlight, affordable, dependable plumbing professionals serving Vegas since 2016. No problem is too big or too small for Moonlight. Their services range from residential leaky faucet repair, water heater replacement, commercial plumbing system installs, and full remodels. You can give them a call, as I tell you all the time, 702-355-3938, or the easiest way to get a hold of them, moonlightplumbing.vegas. That's moonlightplumbing.vegas.
Flush It is brought to you by Moonlight Plumbing. Affordable, dependable plumbing professionals serving Las Vegas since 2016. We mean business.
Tell you what, there's going to be some performances in the NFL that are going to get flushed. I anticipate those are going to be some bad ones too. There's always, every week, Ari, there's always a clunker, right? There's always a really bad performance in the league. Like, you look back up and you look at that game and say, how the hell did that happen?
I feel like it's going to be a lot of quarterbacks this season. Just randomly, but yeah.
Quarterbacks or just bad play in general.
Indeed.
So we'll see how it all plays out. But we definitely shout out to our friends at Moonlight Plumbing for bringing that flushing and that flush the performance of the day. And if you ever have a team, player, whatever the case may be, a coach that you need to flush and you want me to flush, all you got to do is hit us up on the text line at 702-365-9200. That is the phone line as well. Matter of fact, that's the phone line that you can use right now as we've been talking about the Raiders and talking about training camp. And now that it's here, what is the camp competition that you're most intrigued by and why? Let's go out to the north and talk to our guy, Vince. Vince, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Q, what it do? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm about to run up in this Jamba Juice and cool down with a nice smoothie in this heat.
Nice. I respect that. That.
Q, I just got a question. I kind of tuned in late. I was doing a lot of stuff, but my question to you is, like, do I need to pump my brakes? Because, look, I'm sitting here, sitting down. We about a few Sundays away from some NFL football, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Raider fan in me. I don't know if it's the football fan in me, but I'm looking at this team we got, and my question is, am I crazy to think we could, sneak in and be like a wild card playoff team? I'm looking at the roster. You got a veteran in Kirk Cousins. We got talent across the board. I mean, if you look at that defense, the Kobe Dean and those guys, pair that with Max Crosby and Kwity Paye and these dudes, that defense is going to be something serious. And then, that stud we drafted in the 4th round, Jamal McCoy, guys, if y'all do y'all homework on these boys, Jamal McCoy is a stud, a great stud. And then on the offensive end, you got a veteran left tackle. You got an all-pro center. You got a young rising star kid in JPJ. I don't know if he's going to play the right guard or left guard. I mean, we got pieces. We got an all-pro tight end. I think Genty is about to break out. I think this is going to be his coming out party. I think even last year he still put up decent numbers with the circumstances. So I say all that to say, man, do I need to pump my brakes? I think if we get any production out of receivers besides Trey Tucker, Thornton, Besh, whoever, and not to mention Michael Mayer too. This kid, he might not be all pro, but he's probably just under. The kid is very talented. I watched him at Notre Dame. But am I crazy to think that we could somehow just be very optimistic and we could just shock the world this upcoming season? What do you think, man?
Hey, really good call. And no, I don't think that you're crazy, and this is why. If you go back and look at the AFC West last year, Denver won 14 games. The Chargers won 11. Obviously, Kansas City had an awful season. They only won 6, and we know what the Raiders did. They won 3. I don't see the Broncos winning 14 games this season. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. They won a lot of one-score games, and that normally – always regresses. You don't normally keep up with that. Now, you give credit for being able to win those games, but that doesn't normally happen back-to-back years. That's not a recipe that you want to try to live by as well. How come we're not winning the one-score games this year? Because that doesn't happen very often. The Chargers won 11 games, right? Are they going to do that again? They have a new offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, so everyone's singing their praises. This is the year of the Chargers. I don't know about you, but I'll wait and see. I'm in that wait-and-see mood. Maybe they're going to be really good. We'll see. But then the Chiefs, do you expect them to win 6 games next year? I don't. So they could end up winning 9 games. And if the Broncos take a step back, like I think, the Chargers in that 9-10 range, whatever the case may be, where does that leave the Raiders? right? And can the Raiders steal some of those division games? Can they do a lot better than 1-5 in the division? Can they go 3-3? If they do, then how does that affect the other teams? So I say all that to say, no, it's not crazy. I don't expect them to make the playoffs, but it's not crazy because there's going to be some regression, I do believe, from the top of the division. And who knows how the rest of the conference is going to play out. But you win a couple games early. You know, you want to win the games that you're expected to win. I know there's only a couple games on the schedule that the Raiders will be favored in. So you want to win those. You want to win the 50-50 games, or at least, you know, the majority of the 50-50 games, and then pull an upset here or there. And if you do, next thing you know, you're looking up at the end of the year and you're looking at 9 wins, 10 wins. If you can get to double-digit wins, you can get in the playoffs. That's the reality of it. The Steelers got in the playoffs last year with 10 wins. Right now, I mean, some seasons you'll see teams that they'll get in the playoffs with 9 wins based off how it goes. But I don't want to set you up for failure and say it's going to happen. But based off the way the division played out last year, and don't think it's going to look anything like that, I mean, I don't think that you're crazy. I don't think you need to pump your brakes. I just think that, you know, you got to see. I'd really wait to see what the first month looks like and how comfortable this team looks in the system, how comfortable this team looks, you know, with each other. You know, is Ashton Genty starting to have that breakout season that you're talking about? How does the quarterback play look? What does the defense look like? Right? Can the Raiders score more than 20 points per game? Right? There's obviously a lot that goes into it, but for every reason that we've seen all off season long, there's a lot to like about this team. So I completely understand where you're coming from. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Hey, look, if they're a team that's fighting for the playoffs in late December, sign me up for that. Sign me up for that problem. I would love to be able to, you know, be part of the soundtrack to a Raiders season that nobody saw coming in 2026. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. 702-365-9200. We'll come back. We close things out. We'll hear from you. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
Man, I know it's football season, getting interview requests for early in the morning, knowing that training camp starts at 7:30. Man, this is an exciting time. Got a hit I just confirmed in Fresno tomorrow morning, 7:15 in the morning. That should be fun. You'll appreciate this one, Ari. A little Raiders preview with our good friend Ari Mayrov on Thursday. You know what time that's going to be at? 6 in the morning. So, you know it's football time, baby.
Was that the latest you could get, being the East Coast? I know you're up, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where it was like, well, we got this and we got that, and this made a lot more sense than that. So I could just tell that's what it is, man. It's training camp time. Everyone knows that it starts early, and everyone's trying to get their conversation pieces in. And I can say this, and I think this is something to be proud of, you know, Raider Nation, that the Raiders are an intriguing storyline.
Yes.
I don't care if it's Fernando Mendoza based only. They're a team that everyone's talking about. Everyone is talking about the Raiders. So I'll take it, right? I mean, we always say that the Raiders aren't being talked about enough. They're being talked about plenty. Now it's about them going out there and not just being talked about, but now them going out and doing something. So exactly. I'll take it. I will definitely take it. It's Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. This one from Sammy Q. I'm off subject, but here's what I'm looking for this season. Listening to you guys after a win that matters. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'll tell you what, Sammy, I hope that we're in that position. I hope that we're coming in on all these different Mondays and talking about a lot of victory Mondays coming in off to Sundays. Man, I hope that that's the case. When we're at the Silver Sevens, I hope that my guy Eric is cruising by Silver Sevens and happy because, well, they're in a really good position because the Raiders just came off a big win. And I hope that goes for all of Raider Nation. I hope everyone's able to have a really good season, wear their Raider gear, and be proud of it, you know, and that's going to be on the Raiders to go out there and make that happen. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. I know we only got like a minute left, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. Money Mitch, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Q, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. You got about 30 seconds, brother.
That's warm time. That's nothing. I'll take you from east, west, north, south. Need more than a minute. You know how it go. I'm glad you're being busy there. Thank God you don't live in the East Coast. We'll eat you up. God bless you. You're doing good things. They hear about you. They heard you, but probably from the barbershop. You love to talk, and you know your stuff. I'd be interested in defensive line, the most important defensive line, the wide receiver, defensive line. I like those two defensive tackles from last year. I'm glad we're not going to give up a second-round pick. Now I don't think I really want Vita Vea. Next year's draft, there's a lot of defensive linemen I heard. And what else can I say? Can't wait for USC to start.
All right.
I'm not getting the flush this time.
I know that's right. Money Mitch is trained. Money Mitch in New Jersey. That's record time right there. He said, I will not be flushed. I could appreciate that. Really good stuff. Vegas Pete says, once he grabs the playbook, Mendoza will be hot on Cousins' heels. Never forget Curtis 37 and not mobile. No, you're right. You're right about that, but we'll see. We'll see exactly how it all plays out. They always say, it will reveal itself. Eric, hey Q, I got no problem jumping into Kubiak's mind. I told you it's going to be a long rebuild. I'm not going to sign a veteran player just to win an extra game or two when I want the lowest draft pick during the first year player assessment. That's from our guy Eric, who is in Kubiak's mind, and we are out of Kubiak time, if you know what I mean. We'll be back tomorrow here on RaiderNation Radio 920. Have a great night.